Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's Planning Committee meeting. My name is Councillor David Connor, and I'm Chairman of Planning Committee here at Fenland. Welcome to all those members of the press and public who are joining us via the live stream. Before we begin, please may I take this opportunity to remind everyone to turn off their mobiles and computers to silent, and ensure that whenever using microphones, the red light is on and then turned off when you finish speaking. So we'll quickly go to agenda item number 1. I would like to ask member services if they have any apologies for absence. Joe, please.
All members are present for today's meeting, Chairman.
Excellent. Agenda item number 2 is to confirm and sign the minutes of the meeting of the 15th of November 2023. Can I have a proposer for that, or anybody got any suggestions? Councillor French, Councillor Benny seconded, and all those in favour, please put a show of hands. Those minutes are accepted, thank you. Approved. 3, urgent items, there are none, but however, agenda items number 7 and 9 have been withdrawn, and I'll be changing the order in which the applications are being determined, with agenda items number 5 and 10 being considered first, then the remainder in order, if that's okay with everybody. Thank you. Agenda item number 4 is declarations of interest. Member services will now to go each councillor in turn, and can you please state if you have anything to declare in relation to any agenda item today? Thank you. So Joe, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Benny.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Nothing to report today. No conflicts of interest on anything today.
Thank you. Councillor Connor.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I know the applicant from when on agenda item number 5, when I was chairman of CC Planning Committee, in relation to land matters when constructing the Kingsdyke Bridge in Whittlesea, or Kingsdyke in Whittlesea. I've not spoken to the applicant for at least 4 years, and as such, I will keep an open mind on this present application before us today. I represent Doddington Wimbledon as a councillor on this authority. I attend Doddington Parish Council, but I take no part in any planning matters whatsoever. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Mrs French.
None.
Councillor Gershner.
Item number 5. I've been lobbied by individuals and the Saxon Gate residents group. However, I remain open-minded and not predetermined.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hicks.
Nothing today, no.
Councillor Mafferdon.
Thanks, Joe. Item number 10. I will be leaving the room when this item is being discussed, because I have previously tried to buy the property and the deal fell through about 2 years ago. And also item number 12, I will take a backseat on that one because I know the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Marks.
Thank you. Item number 6, I will step away from, as I believe the applicant is a customer of ours. Apart from that, nothing else.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Now we'll go to the main part of the meeting. Members should only make a proposal on a planning application when invited. However, I will be initially asking if anybody is going to propose the officer's recommendation. Clearly, if no proposal is forthcoming, then that proposal fails. I would then be looking for an alternative proposal. Members are reminded that any such proposal should be accompanied by the planning reasons for doing so. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Tracy Ranger. She's the Development Officer here at Fenland, to present application FYR 230546F, agenda item number 5. So Tracy, when you're ready, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So agenda item 5 is a full planning application for the change of use of the existing paddock land to B8 open storage with associated access works and landscaping. So members resolved to grant this application at November's committee, subject to an additional condition stating no operating refrigerator lorries should be parked on site overnight between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. The application is now back at committee to request an alternative condition be imposed to restrict the number of operating refrigerator lorries on site between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. to 16 vehicles, in line with the accepted noise impact assessment. Just to refresh members' memories, This slide shows the site location plan and aerial photo. You'll see Chiltern distribution is existing across Kingsdyke. The existing layout of that site would mean operational refrigerator lorries are a similar distance to residential noise receptors to the north as that proposed. The on-site dwelling is owned by the applicant and not occupied. The next slide shows the proposed layout. In summary, members resolved to grant application at November's committee, subject to additional conditions. A condition was requested by the planning committee stating no operational refrigerator lorries should be on site between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. The noise impact assessment, which has been accepted by our environmental health team, was undertaken under this understanding that there would be a maximum of 16 operational refrigerator lorries on site, day or night. Therefore, subject to the mitigation measures being implemented and the revised condition, the Environmental Health Service consider that the appropriate level of protection can be achieved. This condition is considered unreasonable in the context of the existing businesses operating surrounding the site, the noise assessment taking account of the 24-hour operation and the mitigation measures proposed. It is recommended that the condition added by committee be removed and replaced by an alternative condition that restricts the number of refrigerator lorries operational on site between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. to 16, as per the noise impact assessment.
Yep, thank you very much, Tracy. We have no speakers on this application, surprisingly enough. So I'd now like to invite members to put questions to officers. So members' questions to officers again, thank you. Right, Councillor Marks.
Okay, obviously this came in last month. At the time, we were told no refrigeration vehicles. Then all of a sudden, the numbers started to escalate. We're now at 16. We're now told there are refrigerated vehicles across the road. But surely this is the same impact as we had when we had the dogs kennels. When you add another 16 to already existing vehicles, you have more noise. These vehicles are going to run over, more than likely over the summer period more than they are in the winter period. And that's when people are outside in their houses, and this is more noise. I'm sorry, I'm not happy with this one. Is there, I believe we had a noise specialist today?
Through you, Chairman. Unfortunately, at the last moment, the Environmental Health Officer was unable to attend in person today. And given the short notice, we weren't able to arrange remote attendance at the meeting. So apologies for that.
Thank you.
Councillor French.
Yeah, I feel the same as Councillor Marks. We did discuss, we used to have one round in Marrick Road, constantly running, complaints from residents. If this environmental person hasn't arrived today, let's defer this until we can get some sensible answers. We put the condition there for a reason. It's not an unreasonable reason, I believe, but let's have the specialist actually here or linked up to tell us. So my proposal is to defer.
Okay, that obviously is still in questions to officers. Obviously, you can make that those comments, reiterate that in debate. Anybody else got any questions for officers?
If I may, thank you, Chairman. Just to clarify that the noise assessment was submitted with the application when we first received the application. This isn't something that's come in subsequent to the previous meeting at which this application was discussed. And as the case officer has mentioned, the content of that report actually modelled 16 refrigerated trucks operating on that site at night. And with the proposed mitigation that's always been part of this proposal, the environmental health officers have indicated that the situation is satisfactory in respect of noise impact on the nearest noise sensitive premises. And that noise assessment will have taken into account existing background noise generated from existing activities. So it would have been existing activities prior to this development taking place, with this development added on to that. So I hope that gives committee assurance that this has been looked at appropriately by the applicant's consultant. But I can quite understand that committee might wish to grill the environmental health officer, and you may wish to defer this item to a future meeting. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of a steer, probably that's where it might go, but any more questions to officers? Okay, sorry? No, well, we soon will be, Councillor Benny. No, so now we'll be in debate now, Councillor Benny, up to you, the floor's yours.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I mean, looking at this, I don't know how we turn it down. I don't think we can. We can defer it. We can ask for get the applicant out and discuss it with him. But it's policy compliant. I mean, I'm happy to go along with the deferment if we want to, but I think we're on very, very thin ground if we try and turn this one down, on the basis that there might be noise, because the report says that has been done that it is acceptable. Now, I'm happy to go for deferment, and I'm happy for this to be brought back to committee, but truthfully, I think we're going to end up with the same answer whether we do it today or whether we do it in a month or 2 months' time. Would be nice to have a member from the environmental team here that maybe could give us some assurance whether we could maybe have the fencing put up, the acoustic fencing put up, and then monitor what that difference that would make to see if that would mitigate it, to see that it does before it's passed. I don't know whether that could be done. But truly, I think Mr. Hobson will certainly take this to appeal if we turn it down, and we'll end up in the same situation, but it will go through anyway. But happy to go along with the deferment if other members feel that that is where we want to go.
Thank you, Councillor Benny. Councillor Gerstner, and then Councillor Marks.
Thank you. And thank you, councillors. I wasn't here last month, but I did view the application on YouTube, so I'm well aware of how it all went. As the Chief Planning Officer said, the noise assessment has been carried out to the satisfaction of environmental services. I have spoken to the nearest resident to the site, which is quite some way away. I would say at least 300 to 400 metres away. This is the first major residential sized bungalow. At the present time, that site is not causing that family a problem. Who knows when they start putting refrigerated units on there whether that may be the case. It would be too late then for him to come back to us and start complaining then. I'm just stating as it is at present. It is deemed an industrial site. And as Councillor Benny said, there's very few reasons at this moment in time to actually refuse this application. Thank you.
Councillor Marks, thank you.
Thank you. I'll go back to what I said earlier. At the beginning of this last time round, there was no mention of refrigerated vehicles till we started asking the question. Now all of a sudden we're at 16. When does 16 become 32, and on and on and on? The company in question is will expand as they. What concerns me is the residents haven't got a problem at the moment, but we had the same over 32 barking dogs up to I think it was 140. Noise level goes up every time you add something into it. The other problem you have is with these lorries now, if overnight they cut in, they cut out, it's not a constant running noise. And if you've got 16 of them, you've got these starting and stopping all the time. I'm not against the actual planning permission itself. I just have major concerns that we need to know that we have mitigated all noise, and that's why I'd like to listen to what environmental health have to say, and we can question him on that. As I say, I'm happy to go with expansion of the site, but I just want some guarantees or assurances for the residents, because as you quite rightly say, at the moment there is an issue. But start adding another 16 in, I think you will have an issue. Thank you.
Councillor Benny?
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I mean, the difference between these and the dogs is there was a problem with the number of dogs that were there to start with, and adding more dogs is going to make the problem, which I fully understand. I just think this is going to end up going only one way, and even if we get someone here, what assurances can they give us? It's very difficult to assure the committee. We have this every week. We have experts come along and they tell us things, and then when you look back at it, you find that what we were told doesn't work, or that for whatever reason. And I don't mind. I mean, if we want to go for a deferment, I'm happy to support that, so we can get some answers. But I don't think it will change the outcome of where this is going to have to go, because it's compliant as it stands at the minute.
So I'll take you, Councillor Gerson, and then I'll come in myself. Thank you.
Thank you. We can ask for a mathematical modelling of 16 refrigeration units. They can mathematically model the amount of noise, sound, frequency that could be generated from that. That's science, that's audio and electronic science, okay? I'm not going to prejudge what that would be. I don't know, because it has to be done properly. The science is that, yes, there could be a slight variation between the mathematical modelling and the actual practical modelling. And I'll take on board what you say about compressors cutting in and out. I'm well aware of that. Okay, they can be quite noisy cutting in and out, and especially if they're not well maintained. But I go back to the fact that there's no resident that's living adjacent to or very nearby, and so I find it very difficult, even with the noise impact statement, to actually not go with the recommendation. Thank you.
Well, I'll come in then. So we've got a noise impact assessment. I do sympathise with Councillor Marks, because I think he was talking a lot of sense there. But there is something else that Councillor Benny has sort of half alluded to. If we don't do something today, the applicant agent could opt to get us for non-determination. That is a possibility that could happen, and it could go to the Secretary of State. I know he's got to wait several months, possibly, but that is an option the applicant agent could take. So it just needs to be kept in mind, members, when you make the final decision. Thanks. Councillor Marks.
I still go back to, I'm not keen on this at all at the present time. I do understand what Councillor Benny is saying, and to a certain degree I do agree with him. However, I think as a planning committee we should have that comfort factor of talking to environmental health and just making sure that we are rubber stamping something. Again, as my fellow councillor there has said, regarding the residents haven't complained up to this point. What happens after this is given and they do start complaining? And when does 16 become a lot extra machine? You know, as soon as we give this as a go, they can keep adding on as an operating centre. So I just would like that comfort factor. I would ask for a deferral to have a chat with them. I do understand what Councillor Benny is saying. And yes, and it would be nice to actually have the applicant here and have a chat with them as well, to hear what they're putting in place. How do we know 16 trailers? You know, how do you count that? How does anybody monitor this? Once we let this go, whether it's one trailer or 16 trailers, that's it. The noise will be there. And I think it would be nice that the applicant came and explained to us how they're going to marshal 16 trailers. Thank you.
Yeah, very relevant point. Councillor French, did you want to come in there?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. You did point out that if this wasn't approved, they can go for appeal for non-determination. We determined this last month. We made a decision. We put a condition on it, so it has been determined.
Yeah, but this is a new application, Councillor French, and
no, it's not.
Through you, Chairman, and to assist members, we had the committee resolution. The decision notice has not yet been issued because post the meeting, some checks were made on the noise assessment, and we identified that the noise assessment made provision for 16 refrigerated vehicles operating overnight, and hence we thought it prudent to, before issuing the decision, come back to committee to see whether or not you'd be minded to amend that condition or stay with it. So it's not about the principle of development, because if it was about the principle of the development, we wouldn't be able to bring the application back to you. We're just talking about one of the conditions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So thanks for clarifying that. Councillor French.
So, through you, Mr. Chairman, if I can ask Mr. Harding, we made a determination last month. The notice wasn't signed off. What is to stop us today saying we stand by what our decision was last month and not amend this?
Nothing at all. That is an option which is open to the committee.
Councillor Marks.
I think planning has been very fair to the applicant, but equally, I think we need to be fair to any residents there as well. So because of what's already happened and we've been fair to the applicant, perhaps it should be turned the other way now, and we have environmental health here and the applicant himself, and, you know, at the next planning meeting or whenever, and that we get those safeguards put in place. I would happily go for a deferment today, and then we hear from all thereafter.
Okay. Anybody else want to come in? Still in debate? Councillor Benny?
Yeah. I really don't like deferments unless there is a good reason for it. And I think all we're going to do is we're going to have experts, as we've had Anglian Water and Middle Level, and we've had everybody else come along, and they just reaffirm what it says in the report. And we're going to be in the same position. We can't turn it down. This will go to an appeal and we'll lose. And for what? As Councillor Roy has already said, he knows the resident that's the nearest, 300 metres away, and there is no noise yet. It could add more. Obviously, this is in Councillor Gerson's area. I mean, I don't know how many other residents there are close. If that's the closest, where's the next closest? Is it next door? I really don't know. But, you know, I just feel if I'm not saying we're going to pass it today, we can defer it. And if members want to go for deferment, I would support that. But we've had experts come and sit before us before, and they just reaffirm what is in the report. And we are left in a position where we have got to pass it. Because Mr. Hodson will certainly take this to appeal, and we will lose because it will be an unfair decision to do so, because it's based on what? There isn't anything to base it on. You know, it will go. If the committee wants to go for deferment, I will happily support it, but I just feel that we've got to have grounds to go against this. Yes, we made a decision last time. This has come back with a variation of condition. I do think the condition we put on was reasonable. Also, last month, this started off with no refrigerated lorries, and now it's 16. As Councillor Mark says, will it be 32? Will it be 64? It could be going up in numbers every time. But we've got to base it on what we've got in front of us. And what we've got in front of us today, in my opinion, is a policy compliant application. If we want to have people come back, then fine. But I just feel that it will take up more officers' time, and the decision will be the same as it is whether we do it today or whether we do it in January or February.
Okay. Anyway, Councillor Gerstner.
Thank you. Just for the benefit of the planning committee members, there is another major distribution centre closer to the residents, DFDS, that run a much larger operation. I don't know if they run fridge units, they probably do, I don't know, but they run a much larger operation closer to the settlement of Kingsdelf in Whittlesea, and they run 24/7, and they're closer to the settlement. I think if we deferred this or refused it, the applicant will appeal, because adjacent businesses across the road, not Chiltern Foods, but McCain Foods, for example, and their distributors, again, closer to the residents than this site is, they would appeal that it's unfair for us to put restrictions on them when adjacent businesses don't have the same restrictions. And that's what I'm worried about. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else before I close? Councillor Miffordin, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to echo what Councillor Roy just said, and also to agree with Ian as well. If we defer this today, I think it will be a waste of officers' time. We've had the reports come through. We've had the noise assessment done, and also when we heard this last month, I think Councillor Marks and we did mention that we asked if there were going to be refrigeration lorries, and at that time they said there wasn't. Well, a storage yard like this always has refrigeration lorries, depending on the business that is carried out from there. So if the noise assessment report says it is within acceptable levels, I don't see any reason for deferment. I think we'll be wasting our officers' time, like Councillor Benny said. Thank you.
That's fine. I'm going to close the debate now. I think everybody's had a go. Right, officers, would you like to contribute anything to this?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Okay. So I'm basically looking for a proposal on this then. Councillor Gerstner, sorry.
I propose that the application is granted with the condition that a maximum of 16 refrigeration units are stored and no more than 16. Thank you.
Okay. Have we got a second for that? Okay. So on that proposal from Councillor Gerson, seconded by Councillor Mivenden, to go with officers' recommendation to approve this application, can I have a show of hands on that, please?
That's 4 votes, Chairman.
Those against?
That's 3 votes, Chairman.
That application has been approved. Thank you. So now I will hand over to Tracy again to present linked applications FYR 230415F and FYR 230413A, agenda item number 10. So Tracy, when you're ready, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So,
Sorry, just before you start, Tracy, I do apologise. Yes. Councillor Mivenden is...
Yes, I declared earlier I will be leaving the room.
You will be leaving the room?
Yes.
On this one?
Yeah, this is 10.
Okay, so, yeah.
This is 10.
Yeah, so if you want to go and...
Yeah, thank you.
So then, as soon as you remove yourself from the table, we'll go. Sorry, Tracy. Just want to clarify that for the to YouTube. Right, thank you, Tracy.
thank you, Chair. So agenda item 10 is for a full planning permission and an advertisement consent for alterations to the existing building known as Mendy's. Mendy's has had planning permission since 1973 to be a nightclub, restaurant and bar. The proposal would involve alterations to the existing nightclub, the conversion of the rear section of the building to create 4 times 2-storey terrace dwellings, 1 times 1 bed, 3 times 2 bed, and 1 times first floor flat 1 bed. The formation of a 1 metre link footway along Exchange Square and the display of 1 times non-illuminated fascia sign. So this slide shows the site location plan and aerial photo. The plan shows the premises fronting Old Market with the rear of the building located along Exchange Square. The River Nene is shown running from the southwest to the northeast of the plan. The site is located within the Wisbeach Conservation Area. Whilst there are multiple listed buildings surrounding the site, the host property is not a listed building but is considered a non-designated heritage asset. This slide shows the existing and proposed site layout, elevations and the proposed signage. So to the left of the drawing it shows the existing Mendy's frontage at the top and the proposed front elevation below. After alterations, the Conservation Officer now has no objections to the proposed alterations to the front of the building or signage. The Conservation Officer considers the proposed alterations to the ground floor front windows to be an improvement over the double bow window design that currently exists. The existing rear elevation along Exchange Square is shown centrally at the top of the plan, with a proposed layout of 4 dwellings and 1 flat below. This slide shows the proposed ground floor layout. The proposed 2-storey dwellings would have a recessed front door, open plan living room, dining area, kitchen and shower room on the ground floor. To the rear of the nightclub, closest to the dwellings, would be the toilets. To the front of the club would be the bar area and entrance with lobby and stairs to the first floor. This plan shows the proposed first floor layout with bedrooms for the 2-storey dwellings and open plan living area with bedroom and ensuite for the flat. The windows to the rear of the dwellings are proposed to be obscure glazed. Between the flat and the dance floor are proposed stores and a seating area. A dance floor to the southwest corner of the remaining club with a bar area, stairs and lobby to the front. There is highways mitigation proposed, which has been broadly accepted in principle by the highways team, subject to a section 278 process post-planning. The highways mitigation measure proposes is a 1 metre wide link footway to the front of the proposed dwellings along Exchange Square to provide a safe landing area for future residents entering and exiting their properties. Above, photo 1 shows the existing Mendy's front elevation along Old Market. Photo 2 and 3 show the rear elevations along Exchange Square. And photo 4 shows the pedestrian access through to North Brink. So in summary, the application seeks full planning permission and advertisement consent for alterations to the existing building known as Mendy's. This would involve the change of use and conversion of the rear section of the building to create 4 times 2-storey terrace dwellings, 1 times first floor flat, and the formation of 1 metre link footway along Exchange Square. The proposal includes a scheme for the refurbishment of the existing nightclub, including a new frontage and the display of 1 non-illuminated fascia sign. Subject to conditions, application is considered, application 0415F is considered on balance acceptable, as it is considered that the proposal will not cause significant adverse harm to the street scene or the character of the area, the setting of nearby grade 2 listed buildings, or in respect of residential amenity, highway safety or flood risk. An application 0413A, the advertisement consent, is considered to be a replacement of the existing advertisements, which would be in keeping with the revamped frontage to the building and other signage in the vicinity. The proposed advertisement would not interfere with the public highway, therefore the proposed advertising is considered acceptable. Accordingly, the officer recommendation is to grant both applications.
Yep, thank you, Tracy. We have 2 speakers on this application. First, I'd like to invite Rakesh Ganga, an objector, to make his presentation to the committee. As there are 2 applications, you have 10 minutes. So if you'd like to come to the table and address the committee, thank you, and make your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Just need to press the button so the mic.
Yep. Thank you for. I'd like to address the panel regarding planning application FYR 230415F. As a direct neighbour living next door to Mendy's at 2426 Old Market, I have the following concerns. Firstly, the 5 dwellings at the rear of the building, which were originally the dance floor, are clearly an overdevelopment with poor internal amenity space for future residents, assuming there will be families with children in cramped living conditions with no private communal outdoor space. The developer has not provided measurements which can then be assessed against technical housing standards, National Described Space Standard to see that they meet the minimum internal for living space, storage, and no mention of the roof height of the 3 two-bedroom dwellings. How does this development improve the economical and social development of Wisbech and the well-being of residents? Also, when we have a nightclub toilets ever been approved for work as an effective buffer to noise, as suggested in the proposal for new residents? If you've ever been to the toilets in a nightclub, you will generally hear screaming, shouting, singing, crying, and vomiting. But all these things, they may think they're a good idea. Now I move on to the 1973 document, which has been mentioned a number of times by the case officer. This document shows change of use, restaurant, club, and offices. There is no mention of nightclub. On us obtaining this application, we was told there was no subsequent supporting evidence with this application in 1973. Neighbours have direct contact with the planning officer, and there has been no mention of this other paperwork being available. Mendy's has previously been a members only club due to being in a conservation area. Even the previous owners, Jeff and Steve, have said it was not a nightclub, it was a dance floor with a bar and restaurant, and they've been running that since 1976. Even more importantly, the report fails to mention the address on the document is incorrect. The 1973 document this is, showing part of our address, which raises questions including GDRP. How is this document valid, and why is it not void? So there is 2 addresses, 24 and 25 on the report, which actually is our address, and the other address belongs to the proposed applicant. We think it's important that the council are aware of how the buildings are situated to understand the severity of the nightclub next door. Having spoken to some councillors, they seem to be under the impression that we have lived next door to Mendy's for the last 21 years, that this application would have little to no impact on us as neighbours, which is why site visits are so important. The music dance area at present lies across the back of the building in Exchange Square, detached from us, with a private car park in between. So music has never been a problem, although entrance was from the front of the old market and the doors were closed at 10:30 in the night. Again, going back, this does not resemble the actions of a nightclub. The new proposal converts the old dance floor area into dwellings that rest on the building solely as a nightclub. Bar area on 2 floors immediately adjacent to our living area. Similarly, the nightclub will be situated on the other side of our bedroom wall, a brick away. The Environmental Health Department have stipulated to us that no amount of soundproofing will reduce the vibrations that we will feel throughout our bedrooms and throughout our home. Although an insulated party wall has been proposed on our side, there is no detail of what materials will be used, what type of insulation, whether it's going to be a stud wall or whether it's going to be a breeze block wall or a brick wall. No soundproofing is included within the plan. We will still be facing significant vibrations throughout our home on top of little or no effort to soundproofing the party wall. Again, no provisions have been made for the flat roof that our bedroom joins for noise reduction. The data from the crime prevention design team on this application was inaccurate in the representation over the last 2 years, and those were the 2 years that were during lockdown, not that it was ever a problem to us prior to that. Government guidelines on alterations to high quality environmental LP16 does not adversely impact on an amenity of neighbours' use such as noise, light pollution, loss and privacy of light. As mentioned, noise is our biggest concern, and antisocial behaviour follows as well, as privacy to our back courtyard where 3 windows are present overlooking our private garden space. There is no mention about external noise from clubbers on the front when entering and exiting. The antisocial behaviour we have already experienced under the current ownership last year. Logs can be found with the environmental health due to the problems that we had the 3 months they were open. We live in a conservation area in homes with single panel, large windows where noise echoes through the old market square upwards in a chamber. There are young families living on the other side of Mendes who are very concerned. They have a young child. They're not fluent in speaking English, so they were not comfortable in coming forward to express their concerns. Under guidelines LP19, there have recently been sightings of bats and can be seen with video footage. The case officer reports 11.1 says the proposal will not cause significant adverse harm to the street scene or the character of the conservation area, guidelines LP16. Well, our experience last year when this business was reopened was waking up to broken bottles on the front of our property, windowsills covered in vomit and rubbish being left outside. How can this be in character within a conservation area just around the corner from North Brink? Not only that, we was enduring the doors slamming throughout the night until 2 o'clock in the morning, which was vibrating through our home. So it goes to show and hear how close in proximity they are to us. Mendes has been an asset to Wisbech for many locals for great memories from evenings out, but this will not be the same Mendes by any means. The supporting comments are from people who remember Mendes for what it was and their experience. Although it has the same name and location, this will be a very different, and losing the restaurant also loses the family appeal that is always attracted. People of all ages have gone to Mendes throughout the years, from the age of 5 to the age of 70, 80. They've had retirement parties there, 18th birthday parties there. I don't understand how an 80-year-old is going to actually use the nightclub. Do we really want a repeat of what happened at Chapel Road at the H2O nightclub, which is now called Kennedy's, where residents at the retreat, the building next door, endured such bad circumstances, they ended up moving out of their property because the council and any of the authorities could not help them in maintaining their lifestyle because of noise that was coming from the club. Is this application really showing a sustainable model when it's only open for one evening a week, which is going to be on a Saturday night? The implications of noise and internal external mentioned in our objections within our home and outside will have a huge impact on our health and mental well-being. I cannot stress that enough. We ask that you please strongly consider whether this is acceptable to have a nightclub a brick away from your bedroom when you've been there for 20 years when making this decision, as it will end up losing the business that we're running, that we've been there for 21 years. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, very informative. Thank you, Mr. Ganga. Members, questions, clarifications to Mr. Ganga, please. Councillor Gerstner, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. You've actually answered the question, because in the document it says that in 1973 it had planning permission for a nightclub, restaurant and bar. And my question to you was, how long have you lived there? As you said 21 years. So was you aware that of the building, the circumstances and the operating when you moved there?
Yes, we were.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hicks, thank you.
Regarding the noise issue from the dance floor, and I'm just talking about that part only at the moment, would you be happy if the committee decided that there was a provision to put a noise limiter on the dance floor, which would cut out above a certain decibels of noise?
Only if it doesn't disturb our peace. If we can hear in our bedroom while we're asleep, then no.
The way a noise limiter works is that when there's an unacceptable level of decibels, which is going to affect you, it cuts out. The whole thing cuts out and it resets.
Yeah, and that would carry on throughout the night, would it?
That would work permanently. That'd be switched on all the time. As soon as it goes above a certain decibels, that's it.
off it goes.
Yeah, so as soon as it then goes above the decibels, it will cut out.
Cut out, yeah.
Yeah, but what happens if it cuts out throughout the night?
You won't, but the way the sound limiter works is that up to a certain decibels, the chances are you won't hear it. If it goes above that, which is the bit what's going to be cut out,
Yeah.
you won't hear.
So we are talking a brick away from where the dance floor is going to be to our proximity of our bedroom.
That'll have to be agreed. What they'll do is the environmental sound people come and they'll assess with a meter outside what is an acceptable level.
That's outside. That's not within our building, is it?
But that's in their building. They have a row of traffic lights up on the wall, and as soon as that goes above those decibels, that cuts out, and then you'll never be any louder than that.
Yeah, but what's to say that amount of sound is going to be comfortable for us to listen to?
They have the same thing at the GR, don't they? When the neighbours had a problem there, and then they said, no, that's still too loud, and they set that monitor to which you consider acceptable.
So, which we would consider acceptable?
Yeah, you work with them. That's my understanding of it, isn't it? I think I'm correct in saying that. I think, because I mean, I've been into the music game all my life. I've played on stage all my life, and we've worked with those things for years.
Yeah.
So they do work well.
I mean, our issue is it is right next to our bedroom, and it will disturb our peace.
I think that's what Councillor Hicks is getting to. Say, for argument's sake, they'll come into your building. You'll be inviting EHOs to your building. They'll say hypothetically it's 10 decibels, and that will be considered okay for your sleeping habits. But if it goes to 11 decibels, it will cut out. I think that's to simplify it all up. I think.
Right.
Yeah. So after 10, it will cut out. Mm-hmm. So you'll still hopefully be able to get the same peace as you are doing at the moment.
Right.
Obviously, the officers will probably, when it comes to the officers, that question will be asked to officers, and they've probably got more experience, not than Councillor Hicks probably, but certainly me. But that's the way it looks to be, as Councillor Hicks has said. So, any more questions? Councillor Marks?
Thank you. You say you've lived there for 21 years. Previously, how many days a week was this open as a nightclub? Because you then refer back to it being 1 day per going forward on a Saturday night.
Yes.
So before that, previously, how many days was it open?
It was never open. It was open for 6 days a week. It was closed on a Monday, and it was open the rest of the time.
And there was music all the time?
There was music most of the time, yes.
So, and then we're going down to 1 day per week.
Going down to 1 day a week. Not only that,
what is your concern regarding the level of? Is it the level of music?
It's the noise that it's going to create. The level of music plus the people when they come out onto the street. We've got cars hooting, engines running at 2 o'clock in the morning. People calling each other, people being sick outside. It's very antisocial behaviour. We've endured that in the 3 months that the current owners were open for every week. There are logs with environmental health supporting this.
Thank you.
They were only open for 3 months.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Marks. Anybody else at all before we... thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Chris Walford. He's, of course, the agent to make his presentation to the committee. Just to reiterate, there are 2 applications, so you've got 10 minutes as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members. Firstly, thank you for this opportunity to speak in support of this application. The case officer's introduction has covered most of my points, so I'll cover a few other extras, plus some responses to the objection, and then I'm available for questions afterwards. As said, Mendes has been a landmark in Wisbech for many years, and for the people of Wisbech. It has planning consent and a licence granted and held and maintained since the 70s for a range of activities on both floors, including live music, recorded and dance, and the sale of alcohol. Mendes' closure after the COVID lockdown was a significant loss to the town, and the applicant, our client, Mr. Necker, purchased it with the aim to refurbish and reopen the Mendes. Due to the running costs and the sort of footfall changes in the recent years, it won't be viable to open it every day of the week. So we're operating on a reduced schedule. We also felt that although we have a permission and a licence to do more, that was seen as a good gesture to reduce those hours to the more key hours and not have it ultimately not every night of the week, which would be unfair. In order to sustain the enterprise, the venue has been condensed down to a more realistic and appropriate size, and then that's allowed for 4 townhouses and a flat to be added at the back within the redesign. This helps the business potentially with an additional income stream and help sustain the business. The case officer has confirmed within the gender report that in terms of the club and the venue, this is not a change of use. They have consent to run it. The change of use is aimed at the residential part towards the rear. The rest, they are lawfully allowed to do it. There is a dance floor upstairs at the front. There is a DJ booth. There is a bar at the front, all upstairs on the same party walls that we've heard about. So very little is changing there. The main change would be that the dance floor on the ground floor would be brought forward, but just rest assured there is already a dance floor and a DJ booth upstairs right above it. The internal alterations include a reconfigured staircase, a larger core which adds like an acoustic barrier to one of the party walls, and on the guidance of the EHO we have added in an internal acoustic party wall upgrade detail on both sides, the entire length of both side walls on both floors, to aid the neighbouring properties. And I'm happy for a condition to be added for detail of that, to be agreed with a specialist. We get an acoustic engineer and whatever is deemed fit for that, because you know, at this stage we're not specialists in that realm, but we can get people in. I think that would only be fair on a condition that once he knows he's got the consent, we will happily spend the money with the specialist to do and agree whatever. Similarly with the cutting out, as long as it was a level decided by a specialist and not in the hands of the public as such, so I think that's fair. We would agree to that. I don't know too much about how they work, as long as it wasn't sort of cutting in and out, but I assume they would set it so that the music can never be played at a level over and above that target, and then it would essentially mean that they're not going to have a disturbed music on and off throughout the performances. I think that would be fine. And then to finish, yeah, basically just to reiterate that we've worked closely with Conservation Officer, Housing Officer, Environmental Health, Crime Prevention and EA, all in support, as well as the Case Officer. Yeah, but anything else, let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walford. Any questions at all? Councillor Benny, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Walford. I know you've just said this, but for clarity, you are prepared to put money into an accepted condition for soundproofing and acoustic barriers?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah, we've already, so at the moment we've done a freestanding wall, so we've got 100mm clear cavity against the current wall, and then a new freestanding wall. Chances are, because it's on both floors and the length of it, it probably would be a timber detail. It could be a masonry one, but it just adds another level of structural support issue. But we've done timber party walls and separating walls to building regs before, so I would assume that can be done. But you're happy to agree to, we've got the space, we've got it's a nice clear wall, we can do that on both sides, and that would flank both because the residential doesn't go as deep as the entire length of the building, but we've shown it just belt and braces, we've done every side wall, but happy to agree to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just for me, we've seen Mr. Ganger's concerns, so I take it you'd be happy to work with Mr. Ganger if this was approved.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I think
wouldn't want to impress Gang into anything that wasn't acceptable to him. Obviously, it's not acceptable, full stop. But
yeah, I mean,
it's mitigating things that you can work with Mr. Ganger for.
Whether you want be part of so we've got a couple of specialists we work with for acoustics. He could be part of those meetings to agree the levels. Because I don't know whether you're setting a target we've got to achieve, or whether it's just a general. We need everyone to be happy with said target. Whichever works, we'll happily include them in the meetings. Yeah.
I think it's for me. I think if it was approved by this committee this afternoon, I think everybody's got to be happy. I think you've got to make a profit, and I think Mr. Ganger's got to live with his family in peace. I think that's where it is. I'm not sure what you're going to do quite with the outside interference. It will be when the nightclub's finished. Mr. Ganger replied to antisocial behaviour. Will you have a doorman on hand? Will there be, or is that out of your remit to say that?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because obviously it is a club and it's been a club for a very long time, and the entrance hasn't moved and it isn't moving. So the congregation will be at the front. There was also a rear entrance where generally the smoking area was, and that was out on the road of Exchange Square. So the thought process from our side was that the fact that we were moving all that way was removing quite a lot of antisocial behaviour that used to happen at the back of the property, which is now residential. That road is also quite quiet now, especially with the club closed, and I've certainly noticed our offices near it. I've noticed it deteriorate since the pub has been closed, and I feel that those houses will bring that area back up as a level of surveillance, and it takes away that smoking area congregation that used to happen there. But yeah, I agree that the front of the property has and always will be, to a certain extent, is the club entrance. I think there could be a management plan put in place. I think there certainly would be doormen, or there could be doormen that could control that. But yeah, we've got to remember that's not changing. We've had our offices on the front. They're very close to the objector, and we've come in the morning. There's been a pint glass on their windowsill, whatever. But we can control as much as we can. But it is still a lawful club with that entrance there. But yeah, if you wanted to add in that we've come up with a management plan to ensure that there's door staff controlling it, I think it's fine. But we're certainly not going to be able to stop taxi car doors. It's a public road. It's a carriageway. They're lawfully allowed to do that. I don't, and they could open it tomorrow and carry on slamming car doors. But yeah, I'm happy to do as much as we can within our doorstep of doormen and the like.
I think for me, that is sort of a condition, a management plan. I think that what I'd want put in the management plan, and I would also want signs, respectful signs, if it was passed today, of course, saying, asking members or whoever's in the club to be respectful for outside, for people living nearby. So I don't think it perhaps make too much difference when they've had several points, but we could only hope. Thank you. Councillor Marks.
Thank you. Just out of interest, you've mentioned the smoking area. Where will people be smoking going forward if you've closed the rear smoking area?
That will have to be at the front now. Just like the King's Head opposite, they're all very similar. But we could still have that. There is still a rear entrance. They could still, if someone saw fit that would be suitable, still have that at the back. That could still happen. There is a way through for fire escape on that route. It's just a bit longer now. But yeah, essentially that would be, it's one of those, like a number of the things with this application, there's certain characteristics of its location, i.e. like bin storage and refuse collection, that we have to sort of work with what we've got, because it is sort of bookended and shoehorned in, and it's a very old building. So yeah, essentially I think the logical place would be out the front, but then that is then under the surveillance of the doorman that we've just spoken about, whereas now it's sort of, well, previously it was an unmanned area that you just sort of popped out the back and then came back in. So yeah, I think it would be an improvement. But
Councillor Hicks.
Yes, you say the smoking area is now going to be outside. That's correct. Have you going to make provisions for ashtrays out the front, because we're going to be putting cigarette butts on the floor on the pavement?
we've got a recessed front door. So there isn't provision now, but there could well be. We could do something on that. We've got a wall that's not overhanging the public carriageway, so we could do something in there or add something. We've got a nice wall there to do anything of that nature, so yeah, that could be done.
That's a good point, Councillor Hicks. Any other? Councillor French.
Just ask, the side door, does that belong to that building or is it part of Mendes?
The little arched one?
Yeah.
No, that's I think that's the flats next door. So ours is all just the rendered bit. Yep.
Okay, fine, thanks.
Avoid that then. Councillor Gerstner, thank you.
Thank you. I know I'm labouring the point here. Being a good neighbour, which I'm quite sure you propose to be, okay, the objector was on about vomit and other antisocial behaviour. Do you actually clear up mess outside the frontage of your building, which would include cigarettes, bottles and any other antisocial behaviour within the curtilage of your frontage?
Yeah, I don't know how much of that is planning, but yeah, I'm the architect for the agent, so I'm only speaking on his behalf. But essentially, within I think it would be fair that anything within the realms of his frontage would be in his interest if it was clearly associated with his enterprise, that would be an obvious thing that he would want to do. How far afield that goes, you know, it's hard to prove who did it. I mean, it is a town centre location, things happen at night, there's many pubs crossing over, but yeah, essentially in front of his area, yes, but that's not a condition, I don't think. It's not. Yeah, but yeah, I think that'd be fair. We could certainly pass that on to him.
Just to reiterate, that's not a material planning consideration, although it is an important part. So thank you, Councillor Gersten, for bringing that up. Anybody else at all before we let? No? Okay, thank you very much. Questions to officers, anyone? Councillor Benny, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Nick, obviously noise is a concern. There's a business there that is running as it is, could carry on. The applicant has stated that they are prepared to do acoustic changes to make it better. Can that be put on as a condition that they do that?
Through you, Chairman, yes, that's a condition which is identified in your recommendation.
Councillor French, then Councillor Hicks.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, if that condition can be imposed, I will fully support this application. I don't know if you remember, but many years ago we used to have the George pub in the High Street in March, and we had hundreds of complaints with live music, and they were supposed to put acoustic fencing, whatever, and it never happened. So I just hope that residents in this part of Wisbech don't have to suffer the way March people did.
Yes, Councillor French, I remember the George well. Councillor Hicks.
Yeah, I'd be happy to support this application on the conditions that there's 2 reasonable size ashtrays outside the front, and also all the acoustic changes are made and a noise limit put in as well. Can we do that?
We can ask that. When we come to questions, you can sum that up, Nick, or would you like to now?
If I could.
You can. Pleasure.
So in terms of the ashtray thing, given that that is a sort of a de minimis object, it wouldn't really be appropriate to try and bring that under planning control. And in terms of the noise limiter thing, what we have to bear in mind is that the nightclub is an existing thing, and it is what it is. So the reason why we're looking at noise mitigation is because we're introducing new development, the proposed houses, into the physical same building as the nightclub is currently contained. So that's why we're getting the noise mitigation, and the noise mitigation is obviously going to be of benefit to third-party occupiers and owners. Now, the proposed condition requires details of noise mitigation to be provided, and I wouldn't want to go down the lines of being specific about a noise limiter being utilised, because it may turn out that it isn't actually necessary in order for the appropriate noise and vibration levels to be achieved. When the details come in, those will be assessed by the environmental health team, and they will balance between the performance of the acoustic mitigation against the amount of noise that's likely to be generated, and that may well require the noise to be controlled from the disco or the live music or whatever it happens to be. So I think that it is best a matter left for another day through the discharge of condition process, Chairman.
I think you're right. I think we've got to be comforted by the fact that the agent is going to liaise with Mr. Ganger, and keep him well and truly informed of what's happening. So I think that's a way forward. I think for me, because Mr. Ganger doesn't agree to it, that's got to be some sort of. There'll have to be some sort of agreement, won't there, before he does. But I think Nick right, I think that's for another day, but we are where we are. So, Councillor Marks, sorry.
Thank you. Nick, just sort of the question is, regarding noise mitigation, if this had come in front of us, is it just for the new premises that we have to do the mitigation, not for existing tenants?
I think as a consequence of noise mitigation being put in, that will not only be to the benefit of the occupiers of the proposed units, but also third parties as well.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions to officers at all? No, thank you. So right, we will now go to each application. No, so we want to go to debate, really. Sorry, jumping ahead of myself. Right, anybody want to start this debate off? Yep. Councillor Benny, thank you.
Chairman. Right. When I was first married and had young children, I lived next door. I lived above the shop and I lived next to the Palace nightclub. And I know that you hear noise and everything else, but when I bought my building, I knew that was there. There is an established business here. As a youngster, I have been to Menzies nightclub in my time. And as an older person, I've been there for Sunday lunch. They used to do a carvery there years ago. So I know the premises. And sorry? It was a long time ago. And looking at this, and to me, a lot of what we're talking about today is nothing to do with planning. Planning is about land usage, and it's looking at this as a planning application. A lot of what we're hearing today is actually licensing, and it comes down to the management of the premises, which is Fenland District Council licensing. Michelle Bishop does an excellent job, and I'm sure she will deal with all the consequences of the changes that are here. We've got an established business that is already running, which means that can carry on. I don't know what the terms of the license are, but if it was 5 days a week, it probably could be 5. It's only working one at the moment. We deal with what's in front of us. We're looking at a building. We're looking at planning and land usage here. To get involved into the day-to-day running of how the club runs in terms of noise monitors, it's nothing to do with us. In terms of building structure, in terms of putting the soundproofing in, that is down to us. I think we owe that to the neighbours. Also, is this going to add to the antisocial behaviour that's already there? That falls to speculation, because until you've got it up and running, you don't know what the circumstances of that may be. It may improve what you've got there. And whatever, if this gets an approval today, whatever nuisance or not, that will be dealt with by the licensing and environmental team. So that really has nothing to do with planning. We are here just solely to look at land usage. And again, as we said with the other one, we have got a policy compliant application here in front of us. Comes forward with an officer's recommendation to approve, and providing the soundproofing is put in, which the business is running without it at the moment, is betterment, and the agent has quite clearly stated that he's prepared to work with the objector to find common ground on this. We can't turn this down. It is a policy compliant, and I'm sure that Mr. Wolford will probably take this to appeal if we turn it down, and we will still end up with the same circumstance. We will still end up with exactly what we're going to get if we approve it today. And a lot of the points that have been raised are not planning. This is about land usage, and this is a policy compliant application. So I see no reasons to turn this down. A lot of the things that have been raised, nor should we put restrictions on the business. We've equally got to be fair to the person who runs the business there to allow him to run his business. But the consequences of what he does or doesn't do will be picked up by the licensing team. And that is really where this sits to me.
Yeah, absolutely agree, Councillor Benny. It is the licence, and I'm sure Mrs. Bishop will sort that out admirably. Councillor Marks, thank you.
I fully agree with Councillor Benny. Also, we've lost a bit of sight of we're actually gaining more bedrooms or more housing in Wisbeach as well. People who come along to those, they will understand there's a nightclub there. They'll either take them or they won't. But we gain more housing as well. I think it's a good application. And the thing about it is, yeah, we've heard a lot about antisocial behaviour and stuff, but that doesn't fall to us. That's not anything to do with us whatsoever. So I'm happy to support this.
Okay, Councillor French.
Yeah, I totally agree. If you remember, I can't remember if it was last month and once before, we had some flats in this which we refused. And if I remember right, there's a shortage of flats. So it's in the middle of the town centre. It's the right place.
Okay. Still in debate, Councillor Gerstner, just in time. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I concur with the rest of the council. I think it's a very good planning application. It opens up space for housing. There is the question of amenity space, but people will know that prior to them going there. I see that Wisbech Town Council made a comment about parking spaces. Well, that's not materialistic in town centre areas anyway, as we've been told. So I fully support this application. Thank you.
I think everybody's had a good say on this, I think. So I'm going to close the debate. Now, no, we're going to close the debate now. I think we've gone as far as we can on this. Nick, would you like to sum anything up? Tracy? No?
No, thank you.
Okay, so we'll take out each application in turn. Firstly, do I have a proposer to go with officer recommendation to grant planning permission on FYR 230415F? Councillor French. I have a second to Councillor Benny. Okay. So we've got to sum it up. We've got a proposal to go with officer recommendation to approve this application, proposed by Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Benny. Can we have a show of hands on that, please?
That's a unanimous decision, Chairman.
Thank you. So that has been approved. So we can go to the next one. What's that one? Do I have a proposer to go with officer recommendation to grant planning permission on FYR 230413A? Can I have a proposer, Councillor Benny? Well, I'll take a second proposer, Councillor Gerstner then. So we've got another proposal to go with that proposal by Councillor Benny, seconded by Councillor Gerstner. Can we have a show of hands on that one as well then? So that application has been approved as well. So thank you very much for that. So moving swiftly on to, sorry? I thought somebody else would, but you can if you like. Okay. I'll just hang on till you get back then. Thanks. Right, now hand over to Nick Harding, Head of Planning, to present application FYR 210985F, agenda item number 6. So when you're ready, please, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. We've got a full application for 3 dwellings. They're single story in nature on land at east of 2 Ingalls Lane at Doddington. The application site is outlined in red on both of these pictures. So the site location plan on the left, aerial photograph on the right. And I think you can see from the both of these, particularly the aerial photograph, is that the site forms part of a wider paddock that fronts onto the main road, as well as Ingalls Lane in Doddington. The site falls within the Doddington conservation area, and the paddock is associated with the listed building at 2 Ingalls Lane. Now, the importance of the paddock area is highlighted within the listing description for 2 Ingalls Lane, and likewise in the character appraisal for the conservation area, which is a document that's been adopted by the District Council. That identifies the significance of the paddock area to the appearance of the conservation area, and obviously by association with the listed building. So this is the proposal. As you can see, it's a terrace of 3 properties, single story in nature. It uses an access that exists already off Ingalls Lane and provides car parking for the said properties, and they also have garden space. We're broadly happy with the materials, but if the committee is minded to approve the application, some materials will need to be submitted for final approval. So here are the aerial photographs. So this is the existing sort of property of Ingalls Lane, showing the access into the site, and there's various photographs showing the condition of the site at the present time. And then here are some photographs showing the appearance of the site off the main road. So this is the paddock area, and the application site on the first 2 slides is located at the back, and the bottom photograph is taken from Ingalls Lane itself, and the application site is to the left-hand side of the property, on the right-hand side of the slide. So you'll see from the report the recommendation is for refusal, and the reason for refusal relates to the harm that will be caused to the heritage asset, which is the paddock and the setting of 2 Ingalls Lane, which is the listed building. The harm to the designated heritage asset amounts to less than substantial harm, and this is to use the technical jargon out of the National Planning Policy Framework document. And any harm, whether substantial or less than substantial, are strong grounds for refusal unless the public benefit outweighs the harm. So given that we've got a 5-year land supply, we're meeting our housing delivery test, there's no imperative that suggests that this should be granted to the detriment of the heritage assets that I've referred to. So, Chairman, the recommendation is for refusal. Thank you.
Yep, thank you once again, Nick. We have 1 speaker on this application. I'd now like to invite Matthew Hall. He's a supporter, to make his presentation to committee. You've got 5 minutes, Mr. Hall, when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. The applicant has asked me to speak on his behalf in support of this application. I've read the officer's report and visited site. There's only one reason for refusal, which is a concern from the Conservation Officer regarding a perceived harm to the listed building. But this proposal is 25 metres away from the listed building, maintains all the trees and just extends the existing driveway. There are no other reasons for refusal in terms of flood risk, drainage, overlooking, overshadowing, overdevelopment or amenity. Some of the objectors have raised concern with regards to access. However, this is an existing access and no concerns have been raised by the County Council Highways Department, and there's adequate parking and turning on site. Key point, I think, with this application, and members will be aware of this, is there are numerous other sites in Fenland where planning approval has been allowed by officers, by members, in the grounds of Grade 2 listed buildings within the centre of settlements, just like this site. Name a few: Chatteris House, High Street of Chatteris. Grade 2 star listed building, had a lot of land at the back, and even at the back of that, that's all been built on. That was approved as part of the listed building consent. Park House, Gorefield Road, Leverington, That was approved by this planning committee. 2021 for a builder's yard with various buildings and sheds adjacent to a grade 2 listed building. I believe it was in the curtilage, but it's definitely adjacent. That had 4 reasons for refusal. That was approved by members. This has only got 1 reason for refusal. 133 High Street, Chatteris. That was a grade 2 listed building right on the corner of Black Horse Lane. There's a large field at the rear of that. That was approved by members, I believe, in 2020, or it may have been 2019, for a number of properties. That's being developed as we speak. Minstrels Nightclub, High Street March, 38 High Street March, opposite Iceland. That was grade 2 list, is a grade 2 listed building. A lot of development's been allowed in the back there as part of a consent. That's all been built out. They're all full. That was under this local plan. So its key thing is the actual principle of development here. There are no technical objections to this application, which would allow 3 small-scale units to add a variety of housing in Doddington, which do not obstruct the facade of this listed building and respect the trees and hedgerows on site. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hall. Members, questions for Mr. Hall, please? No burning desire to ask Mr. Hall any questions? No, thank you very much then. Questions to officers, members? Perhaps you've got some for them. No, not again then. Okay, thanks very much. Right, so members, I'm inviting you to debate the item in respect to the material planning considerations relevant to the application. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand so we're in debate. Who wants to kick that off? There isn't, Councillor Benny. Are you putting your hand up or are your fingers wobbling? Are they? Right, so anybody want to kick this off? I am indeed. I suppose it's down to me then, isn't it? Yeah, well, I don't like this application, to be fair. No, there's no technical reasons why it shouldn't be passed, but it's a bit of pasture land. It does come out on Ingalls Lane, which is a very narrow lane. There will be, thanks to the inspector, 47 homes on Bevil's Place going to be built sometime in the future. There is no path down Ingalls Lane, and the majority of the children going to the school will be coming down Ingalls Lane, which is an extremely narrow road. Cars parked at one side, so it's only single traffic basically, with a nasty corner at the top, going to the church. So it's got no pathway, and I don't personally think that certainly I can support this. It's the only sort of little piece of pasture land in the middle of Doddington, and it is in the thing of a grade 2 listed building. So I just think, for me personally, as a local member and who lived in Doddington for 7 years, I don't think I can't support this application. So, Councillor French.
Well said, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we're in debate. Thank you, Councillor French. No one else wants to be in debate? Okay, we're all finished. Okay. Yeah, carry on, Councillor.
Sorry, Chair, I just wanted to say, just as the gentleman who's, sorry, I can't remember his name, who spoke in support of the application said, if we have passed other buildings, other greater listed buildings with developments in the rear of them in the past, and if the only reason that we are refusing this one, or officers have recommended refusal, is because of the grade 2 listed nature of the building, what is the risk of this going to appeal and we losing, if I can ask?
I think,
Mr. Howard.
I think with respect, Captain, I think that's a question you can ask the officers when we get, I think we nearly finished the debate, so I think that's next in the next tranche of things. So I think you probably can ask that to Nick or whenever. So any more, so we'll carry on debate and then we'll go No, Jake's finished now, Councillor Mifferton. You can ask officers.
Sorry, Nick.
Go ahead, floor's yours.
Yeah, could you answer the question, please? I want to ask again.
No, I'm happy to answer as best I can. Obviously, the agent rattled through quite a few examples where development has been permitted in and around listed properties. And I will be frank with the committee, I'm not familiar necessarily with all of those that were listed. I know that some of those decisions went against officer recommendation, but what I would say is that just because you've allowed it in one instance doesn't automatically mean that you should continue forevermore to determine that it's appropriate to grant planning permission for development within the curtilage or within the setting of listed buildings. Each case has to be looked at individually, and you have to weigh the development proposal against whether or not it does harm the setting and appearance and appreciation of that listed building or not, and if it does, to what degree. And it goes back to the issue of where there's less than substantial harm, are there any public benefit elements that go to outweigh? So it's not simple and straightforward. Every case always has its differences and nuances. But I'm confident that we have a good case should the matter go to appeal.
So I suppose to sum that up, Councillor Mifferton, every application has been done on its own merits. Just because we passed one whenever, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to follow suit with this. I think that's what Nick is trying to say. So I'm happy with that. So, Councillor French.
I think the difference with this,
This is questions to officers, of course.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so any more questions to officers before I look for a proposal on this? No? No, Councillor Benny just coughing. So, okay, so I'm looking for so basically now, do I have a proposer to go with officer recommendation to refuse this planning permission? I have one, so that's Councillor French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I would like to point out, the difference between this, I know quite a few of the sites that Matthew actually, the difference is this is in the middle of a village. It's not like March or the Charters and the High Street, and that's why it's totally right that it should be on its own merit, but this one actually sticks out like a sore thumb, whereas the others have actually blended in. So, yes. Move
So I'll take your proposal, and I'm happy to second that. So to reiterate then, we've got to go with officer recommendation to refuse this application proposed by Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Connor, which is obviously myself. Can I have a show of hands on those proposals, please?
That's a unanimous decision, Chairman.
Obviously that application's been refused. Thank you for that. Okay, Councillor French has spoken. We all must adhere, so we'll have a cup of coffee, but we'll be back in 10 minutes. Thank you. Right, thank you members for being back and promptly. As previously advised, agenda item number 7 has been withdrawn, so I'll hand over to Nick Harding to present application FYR 23/0134F, agenda item number 8. So when you're ready, Nick, thanks.
Thank you very much, Chairman. So this application on March Road, Coates, is for a new retail store. The floor space gross is 382 square metres. It's providing 19 car parking spaces, of which 2 are accessible size spaces. The opening hours are 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and the site is one which used to be formerly occupied by agricultural machinery sales operation. So the extent of the application is edged in red on both these drawing and the aerial photographs, and you will see that you've got residential development along the south and the east and to the north, and this is a commercial building located here. The site sits adjacent to but outside the conservation area, and the conservation area boundary includes this property here and goes off in this direction. So when we come to the slides, you'll see what the appearance of the street scene and that particular property is. The development itself, here's a layout plan. You'll see that the entrance to the store, which is here, is adjacent to a pedestrian crossing facility. This is the entrance here, near to the commercial building in this location. You've got the entrance and the 19 spaces marked in here, and here is an external yard area for receiving goods in and any waste materials out. And the front entrance to the store is in this location here. So the building itself is single story in nature. So here's another plan with some additional information in it. So very briefly, you've got an existing timber fence along this boundary and this boundary, and on this boundary it's proposed to double up and have a new fence put inside the existing fence line within the confines of the application site. In addition, on this area here, the proposal is to replace the existing fence with a 1.8 close bordered fence, and that's in negotiation with the occupant of this property here. So this is the open yard area, and this is going to be encapsulated with a 2.4 metre high brick wall, and that will help mitigate the noise impact of the use of that yard in relation to the residents that's located here. So this is the appearance of the building. So it's the entrance here. That's the ground floor plan of the roof plan. Oops, beg your pardon, I'm going too quickly. And here's a sort of coloured up version of the proposed store, showing its height in relation to the adjacent dwellings. And in terms of the dwellings to the rear, it doesn't come up too well on this slide, but the ridge height of the roof here is about the same height as the eaves height of the dwellings that to the rear. Okay. So here are the pictures of the site. It's on the right hand side of the slide 1 and on slide 2, showing the relationship with the adjacent residential development to the east and to the south. Here's the pedestrian crossing that I referred to earlier, and the entrance to the store is going to be directly opposite that, so very convenient. This shows the nature of the commercial building next door. And here's looking back the other way, and this is where the entrance is going to be into the site. You've got the pedestrian crossing, roughly speaking, where that white van is. So, although the village, the settlement, it isn't identified as being a retail centre in your adopted local plan, given the relatively modest floor space of this proposal, it's not going to cause any issues in terms of impact on established shopping centres within the district. It's got a safe means of access, it's got sufficient car parking, it's not going to cause an impact on residential amenity in relation to the adjacent dwellings, and therefore we are proposing to recommend approval of the application to Planning Committee. One thing to highlight, Chairman, is that in the recommendation there is a condition relating to noise management, and that's to deal specifically with activities within the yard area. As I mentioned, we've got the opening hours of 7 AM to 10 PM, but the use of the yard is going to be more restricted than that, because in the application that was modelled on the basis of 7 AM to 7 PM use of that open storage, that open yard area. So that the details of exactly when that yard area is going to be used is going to be subject to that noise management condition that I've just mentioned, Chairman. Following up on that issue and further to the briefing meeting that we had this morning, I have actually noticed that we haven't got a condition on that identifies the opening hours of the store. So I'll be looking for delegated authority to add that as a new condition, 7 AM to 7 PM opening. Sorry, 7 AM to 10 PM opening. I do beg your pardon.
Sorry, I'll start again. Thank you, Nick. We have two speakers on this application. First, I'd like to invite Councillor Bob Wicks, a Whittlesey Town Councillor, to make his presentation to the committee. You've got 5 minutes, Mr. Wicks. Councillor Wicks, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, my statements are as a long-term resident of Coates and also being an elected member for both Whittlesey Town Council for a considerable period of time. My prime concern is the comments that were made by the police officer reference antisocial activities. Unfortunately, he omitted the biggest antisocial concern that I have got, and it relates to speeding in the village, which has been an ongoing issue for many a long year, to the fact that Whittlesey Town Council has purchased a total now of 12 motor vehicle recording systems to actually monitor the speeds, initially within Coates and Eastry, and some of the statistics that have been gathered are quite extreme, to put it mildly. One, for example, is a recorded speed of 107 miles an hour on the entrance to Coates. Now, given where that recorded speed was taken in relation to this development, and also my concern for the children of our school, which its entrance is virtually opposite this facility, of which there have been a number of instances on that level crossing which have been very close to a situation we don't want to see. So I wish you to take that into consideration when you make your deliberations. The other thing is that there is the potential, and I do stress potential, that a community asset, namely our post office in the village, might be affected by this development. It also, because of the demographics of the village, would have a fairly severe impact on the aged residents gaining access to banking and money facilities. The other thing that I noticed from the slides, and this is an observation from a resident, the actual fence to the south of this site is missing and has been missing for a period of time, I think 2 or 3 years, from a storm that actually blew down, and it's never been reinstated for the residents. So please take that as my observation on this. Thank you for your time. As I said, they are my observation as a resident and a councillor, and my concerns predominantly is with the speeding issue and the location of this. There is a further fact that I believe there is in process a retrospective planning application for the industrial unit next door, which will involve, shall we say, extra access to be required on this whole site. Thank you for your time. I refer to your deliberations.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wicks. Thank you. Okay, yeah, okay. Let's carry on. Thank you, Councillor Wicks. Councillor French, you've got obviously clarifications, questions, Councillor Wicks?
Yeah, I've got a couple. Bob, sorry, I missed, what sign is it that fell down and not gone back up? What sign?
The second site, the industrial building, has got, I believe, a retrospective plan.
No, sorry, you said a sign had fallen down.
Fence.
Oh, fence. Oh, okay, misheard. Okay, thanks. Right, looking at Whittlesea Town Council recommend refusal of this application as it's a detrimental impact of the surrounding area. The road safety, as you're well aware, the speeding is a police issue. It's not a material planning consideration, and I know you do know that. But I would have thought, I mean, you have got some support from residents. I would have thought that this is a welcome new store for the people who live there. So can you explain to us, what do you mean about the detrimental impact on the village hall?
Post office.
Oh, sorry, post office.
Sorry, Councillor Wicks, can you use your microphone, please?
My apologies for that. At present, we have a village shop which contains the post office as part and parcel of its business. With the possibility of the income for that shop decreasing because of this development, with it could go the post office, because that would become unviable for the current business in the village to continue with.
Anybody else would like to ask questions, clarifications to Councillor Wicks? No, thank you very much for that. Now I'd like to invite Matthew Wilkinson. He's the applicant, to make his presentation to the committee. You've also got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. My name is Matt Wilkinson. I'm the Capital Projects Manager for Lincolnshire Cooperative, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak in support of the application to develop this brownfield site just east of 6 to 8 March Road in Coates. The site has sat unused for over 10 years, and this proposal is to create a new convenience store for the use of the residents of Coates. The applicant is Lincolnshire Cooperative, a successful regional cooperative society that operates food stores as well as pharmacies, funeral homes, florists, travel branches and post offices in Lincolnshire and surrounding areas. We've been around for a long time, over 160 years, serving the communities of Lincolnshire and surrounding areas, and we want to be able to deliver a food store to serve the community of Coates. I will point out at this point we are not the cooperative group who operate the largest store in Whittlesea. We have, however, recently developed the West End new cooperative on the former Coachworks sites in Whittlesea, and that opened in 2021. I did sit before this planning committee, I think it was the year before that, and it is a similar type of scheme that we're intending to deliver on this site. Our purpose is to bring together ideas, energy and resources to make life better in our communities. We do this cooperatively with our members, customers, colleagues, suppliers and all the organisations, businesses, charities and good causes that we work with. Providing this new local convenience store in Coates will fulfil all of these priorities. In recent years, we've developed many schemes throughout Lincolnshire and surrounding areas, and these stores were vital, trading continuously throughout the whole of the pandemic as an essential service. It is vital that the 4,683 residents of Coast, Benwick and Eastry have a new convenience store to provide for their day-to-day shopping needs. I will point out at this point, we do not want to operate a post office from this location. It is not our intention to operate a post office from this location. We currently operate, I think it's 48 local post offices, and they are a significant cost to our business. We've been campaigning for over 15 years to the government for a fair deal for rural communities, but it's our intention to develop this site to encourage more shoppers to stay and use local services, therefore helping existing businesses like the post office, rather than people having to get in their car to drive for essential day-to-day shop-ups. There have been several concerns raised about this development through the planning process. The applicant, Lincolnshire Co-op, has provided thorough and substantial reasons why this sustainable development should be granted to bring this vacant site back into use. I wish to explain some of the main concerns that have been raised. The principle of development. The site is well located directly off the A605 and in the historic geographical centre of the village of Coates. It's expected that this convenience store will serve the village of Coates and surrounding areas. The impact on the character of the area. The building has been individually designed to be in keeping with surrounding historic architecture of the village of Coates. It uses traditional materials for the... Sorry, I'll start again. It uses traditional materials for the predominant buildings of the area, including a buff-facing brick and grey slate tiles which will be put on the roof. The planning officer describes that the development will make a positive contribution towards the character of the area through development of this site. Highways and transport. The scheme includes suitable parking provision for the store and the ability to turn HGV service vehicles on the site so they can enter and exit the site in forward gear. Cambridgeshire County Council Highways support this scheme. Noise and lighting. The scheme has been accompanied by a full noise impact assessment and detailed lighting plan, outlining that the scheme is in accordance with all current policies. I'm happy to restrict the opening hours of the store to be 7 AM to 10 PM. And with regard to antisocial behaviour, it is not a new comment for us to have accusations of antisocial behaviour. It is a retail premises is bound to act as a location where people want to go and want to visit. We will have the minimum of a 16 camera CCTV system, and we will actively liaise with the local police and the antisocial behaviour officer of Fenland District Council in order to minimise any of that impact. But we operate 98 similar premises in similar rural towns throughout Lincolnshire and surrounding areas, and generally we don't have issue with antisocial behaviour. In summary, the proposed scheme creates a convenience store and essential services that is much needed. The development will make a positive contribution to this derelict brownfield site. 30 seconds. Thank you. It will not be out of character with the surrounding area and will not give rise to adverse impacts in terms of neighbourhood amenity, highways amenity, safety, noise or lighting. It will result in the redevelopment of a vacant site, investing in the area for local tradespeople and contractors, and creating up to 20 jobs to be fulfilled from the local community. The proposal is acceptable in planning terms. The application is recommended by your planning officer to be granted. I would urge all councillors to support this application. Happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Mr Wilkinson. Questions, clarifications to Mr Wilkinson, please. Councillor Gerstner first. Thank you.
Thank you. Born, brought up, schooled in Coates.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
Thank you. But I don't live there now. Thank you for coming today. Concern, no public consultation on this one, not with our local council and not with the residents. Somewhat a little bit disappointing considering when the West End store was built, there was quite a lot of engagement between Lincolnshire Co-op and our local council. And on this particular one, there was none.
I did attend the Whittlesea Town Council meeting when just before the plans were submitted. I want to say it was back in February, maybe March this year. I did give them an early insight of the plans.
I apologise, I wasn't there.
In advance of that being submitted.
Okay.
So,
but public consultation, there was very little. As far as Benwick's concerned, I'm sorry to tell you that you will be getting probably 1 or 2 people from Benwick, and not the Benwick people don't shop in Whittlesea. Very, very rarely, shall I say. Thirdly, net zero, have you got a net zero policy at all in this build out? Because it is adjacent to the conservation area. You just explained to us eloquently about the materials, but do you have a policy for this at all?
In terms of net zero, do you mean in terms of our carbon emissions?
Yes, carbon zero.
We don't have a net zero policy. We do have quite a detailed environmental strategy, which I'm happy to have a chat with you and outline. I mean, in terms of this building, our operational costs in terms of Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions will be extremely low. So there will be a significant number of environmental initiatives built into it. Most notably, I'm afraid it's some of the boring stuff that we do detail out. So in terms of the insulation and the actual U values of the building will be extremely high to make it as efficient as possible. Our refrigeration systems are probably 55 to 60% of our energy use in a food store. So that's about how we chill the fridges and the freezers in there. We will use a carbon dioxide system, which uses much higher pressures, but uses carbon dioxide as its refrigerant rather than HCFC gases, which are extremely harmful to the environment. So we don't have a net zero because in some terms we've got to be realistic. We want to put traditional materials on there, slate and bricks, and you can't have net zero without offsetting. Offsetting to me is you've got to do the best you can in this individual location. So we want a building that looks attractive, looks like it's always been there, but is in keeping with the surrounding area, and that's what I think we've delivered in the same as what we did at West End.
Just for your information, it's quite a historic site.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah, I'm well aware of that.
There was a pub there and a mill.
Yes, yeah, and a farmhouse that was demolished in the 70s, 80s, yeah.
So, you know, it has a little bit of it. And like with your store on West End, where the historic mud wall was, I would hope there would be a little plaque on the side of your building to give a little bit of historic knowledge there. I know it's not planning condition, but it would be very nice. Again, as a previous applicant, I'm very much into being a good neighbour, and I hope the Lincolnshire Co-op is a good neighbour, and especially with these residents on Barnfield Way, you know, that's adjoining your building. And I hope that the noise mitigation doesn't over, you know, your refrigeration units, you know, things like that. Noise can affect people that live nearby. So thank you for your presentation.
No, I mean, happy to answer some of the comments on the noise mitigation if you want me to. So, yeah. I mean, as part of the scheme design, the scheme's been designed deliberately to be that way. So the massing of the building is such that we're minimising the impact of the movement of the vehicles to as many neighbours as possible. So I'm not sure if it's up there. There we are. So you can see, obviously, the massing of the building, and then the L shape, which is the store warehouse, that's been done to protect the neighbours to one side of the site, and then the service yard compounds is a solid brick wall because it's always good to have a solid barrier. But then, as part of the noise impact assessment, that's got mitigation materials to be lined all the way on the inside. And those noise units that I mentioned, the CO2 ones, they are incredibly quiet. You can't hear anything the other side of the wall for that. So we're trying to mask as much as we can of that residential property and that amenity. So it's been a very thoughtful process in terms of why we've got to where we've got to. And then the final one is just in terms of a visual aid for a new fence all the way around the site to help protect the neighbours from there. But I do feel it's a significant improvement over what's been a derelict site for 10 years, and before that had tractors and trailers and all sorts trailing across it. So thank you.
So I'll take Councillor Marks, then take Councillor Hicks. Thank you.
Thank you. We mentioned noise. Transport movements is the thing that concerns me there. We're saying the shop's going to be open between 7 and 10. Are you expecting to have delivery through the night?
No, we won't have.
So how are you going to turn a lorry round when you've got people on site, health and safety wise?
It's been tracked. There is the possibility of turning a HGV while cars are parked in each of the car parking spaces. So it's a fairly typical layout, as would be expected for a convenience store of this size. And in terms of our supply chain, we're part of the cooperative supply chain network. So we get bulk drops. So I'd expect this store to have one of the cooperative vehicles deliver every day, and they would deliver a combined chilled, frozen and ambient delivery. And then on top of that, we probably only have 2 or 3 other HGVs a day. Your bread, your Warburton's bread delivery will deliver. But it's very, very few actually in terms of delivery vehicles coming into the site. So yeah, I'm confident to say we'll always be able to enter the site forward gear with HGV, turn around and exit in forward gear.
Would you be happy with a curfew put on HGV movements?
Yeah, I think as part of the planning.
It is for the compound. However, that doesn't stop you staking stuff through the front door or whatever. It's just for the compound.
No, we won't do such a thing. I think there is a noise a planning condition for what we class as a noise management plan, so that would detail out. We won't allow HGVs to deliver before 7 o'clock in the morning, and they can stop delivering at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, anything like that. They generally tend to come between kind of 7 and 3 anyway, and they will be delivered to the site and go through. So
you'd be happy with the condition 7 till 5 on deliveries?
Absolutely. So I think that's actually included as part of the noise management plan. So
okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hicks. Thank you, Councillor Marks.
I'd like to ask Mr. Wilkinson, how many people are going to be employed there, and what percentage of full-time and part-time?
Thanks, that's a great question. It's a bit difficult for me to say exactly. It tends to be around 15, but it can be up to 20. We're not restrictive in terms of the time and the shifts that we offer to people. So when we're recruiting for a new store, we know we need 2 people in at 6 o'clock in the morning and so on and so forth. But if people want to work 4 hours and then go away for 4 or 5 hours and come back for 4 hours, we're entirely flexible. So it tends to be, say, 15 to 20 members of staff. There's usually 2 to 3 full-timers in that. Tends to be the manager, maybe 1 or 2 what we class as team leaders, and then the customer service assistants. There is a range of hours, all the way from 3 or 4 hours a week, all the way up to 38, 39 hours a week. So we aren't specific because we're very much aware these type of roles fit in around, can sometimes be second jobs or fitting in around people's other responsibilities. With us being open from 7 to 10, we've got quite a range of times that we want to fulfill. So and it is always our intention to try and recruit from the local area, people who can walk to work, who can be easily accessible, and we tend to get quite a lot of applicants for these type of roles as well. So
Councillor Marks, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, just to follow up on that, we've just been handed some drawings regarding HGV movements. Articulated vehicle, 12 metres. Are you using urban artics?
Could I just have a look at that? Thank you very much. That is the actual service vehicles. Yeah, I think they have a number of different arctics. So I'm guessing this has been tracked with a slightly smaller one, because I think it's about 14 metres, the standard one.
13.6 is a standard trailer, then you've got the tracked unit on the front of it.
Yeah, I mean,
so that's a concern before we start. And then it shows the actual trailer going into the compound.
Yes.
So it reverses into the compound.
Yeah.
So how do you unload at the back of that vehicle?
There's sufficient clearance at the back of the vehicle. There's a tail lift which will come down, and then it'll be decanted off the side. But in terms of the number of HGVs, the Cooperative Retail Logistics Network supply 3,500 food stores. They do have quite a range of vehicles that they can use. So depending on this, and this has gone past the site surveyor that we've been in contact with at the logistics network, they will be able to specify that that's the vehicle that's used for this site. And this is not uncommon. We've actually got quite a large site to deliver a convenience store on here. 19 car parking spaces is quite a good number of car parking spaces. So this is actually quite good manoeuvrability for a convenience store. I've got sites which were built 140 years ago, and I'm still trying to get vehicles backed in and people parking there.
I'm sure you have, but we don't want to impact a problem and make a problem from day one. Because looking at this, the turning circle of a proper Arctic would actually then start taking car parking spaces out. My concern is then you've got people with cars shopping, and that's where the problem I have with this. Because I think one of the things you can probably see is people start lorries reversing out into the road if you're not careful, and we've already heard how bad the road is regarding speeding and stuff. And it's right on that corner. This is my concern regarding this.
Okay, I'm not really sure what the question is. It's been tracked with a vehicle that we can service the site from. So that's
okay. Which you can, but larger lorries, you don't have any control over the bread lorries or anything else, other delivery lorries.
The bread lorries are fixed wheelbase, smaller lorries.
You've said other lorries. You don't have any control over what lorries are sent.
In terms of this third-party suppliers.
Third-party suppliers.
We can say to our suppliers that we don't want anything larger than the vehicle.
You can say, but you can't guarantee.
But we're the customer to people who supply the product to our stores.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I think they are legitimate concerns that Councillor Marks has been making. I think I think that's the last thing we want to do is to back a lorry out on the A605. We've seen Councillor Wicks make a good case for speeding and one thing or another, and safety near a crossing. So I think we need to work that one out a bit better than that. I don't know how we're going to go on from here, because if Councillor Marks doesn't think a larger lorry can turn round there, and he's our sort of expert on a transport on that side of it, and you can't really guarantee a specification of lorries that are going to come to deliver to your site through a third party. Sorry. I think you know that is a concern, but we'll let it flow. So anybody else got any more questions for Mr. Wilkinson, please? No. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for answering those questions. Thank you. So, no? Okay. So now I'd like to invite questions to officers, please. And you've got one, Councillor French. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Condition 10 has got the noise management plan, including management of noise impact, which obviously we've just been talking about. There is no times there. If this application is approved, can we actually have this restricted time? I'll tell you why. We have a store in corner of Maple Grove and Norwood Road. It's a one-stop, and they deliver bread at 5:30 in the morning, clutter, bang, and waking up the people of Norwood Road. And I would hate that to happen in this site. If we can have that.
Okay, so I think hopefully Nick will answer that, because we're in questions to officers.
Yes, I think in terms of deliveries and waste coming and going from the site, the intention was to leave that to the noise mitigation plan. But if members would be more comfortable bringing that forward, then in the application and as considered by the environmental health team, that identified 7 AM to 7 PM being those delivery times. I'm conscious that in the conversation that we had in the questions to the agent, I think a slightly different time was referred to, but I might have misheard.
You said 7 till 5. I mean, 7 till 7 is still, I would say that's reasonable.
Okay.
So if members wanted to put that in as a condition, then that
I think we will then. I think we will do then. So we're all happy with that condition put in, are we? Yeah. I'm looking for some nods, some support. Councillor Hicks, you indicate you want to speak.
I've just been told by my learned friend here next door, I was going to ask whether it'd be appropriate or to put in time delivery so the lorries don't turn up during the school times when they go in and out of school. But apparently that's not a material issue, so.
Probably that's a step too far.
Yeah.
Councillor Hicks, I mean, you know, somebody gets held up with some traffic lights, and there are loads in Fenland. I think that's just unworkable, really. But decent point, but not in this case. Thanks. Anybody else still in debate? We're in questions, but we're going to go to a debate in a second, because I don't think there's any more questions. So we're in debate. Oh, so there is. Go on.
No, apologies to.
So thank you for that, Nick. So now we will go in debate. Councillor Benny.
Thank you, Chairman. This is something I do know a little bit about because I was a local shopkeeper for 35 years. When it comes to deliveries of shops, NISA were really, really good. They had people come out and do risk assessments. They take into account times for delivery, local restrictions on the width of roads, heights, in what types of lorry they bring. If they can't deliver on a 40-foot articulated lorry, they'll put it on a class 2 rigid. They work rounds. Also, the gentleman said that you have what NISA referred to as tri-temp, where you have chilled, freeze and ambient delivered on the same lorry. You have the trailer broken into 3 different areas. I doubt very much whether you'll have a late delivery if you're having tri-temp, because the way the distribution system runs, if you have an evening delivery, you lose 1 day's life on your product. I don't know whether the gentleman would agree, but you want your delivery there early in the morning, because if not, you lose a day's, and a lot of things, sausages have a 3-day life on. You can't afford to lose a third of your time. Since it's a company-run store, they'll make sure that the deliveries are there fairly early in the morning. I think that, you know, in terms of planning, again, some of this is scenery and runs down to the how the store is actually run rather than planning thing. But just to let members know, also third-party suppliers like bread or anybody else, they come out, if they're delivering lorries, you couldn't run a transport company without coming out and doing a risk assessment on it and looking at the health and safety aspects of your drivers. How far have they got to push the stock in terms of if it's on cages or pallets, how you unload it. Companies are very, very attuned to health and safety and how you're safeguarding your driver. It would be at the point, I would imagine, if it was that bad, they'd even put a banksman in there or have somebody on site who's done a banksman course to get the lorry in. I think the thoughts of lorries here is more than adequately accompanied on a NISA is different. It's now part of Co-op. It wasn't when I was trading with them, but their systems will be very, very similar, and it's quite a regulated industry in terms of delivery, because you're delivering where there are people and you can't afford to have mistakes made. So I would be very confident the fact that these deliveries could be made. I looked up online, Coates and the 2021 census has 2,315 people living there. The good thing is they'll have a lot of passing trade on 605, and where you've got cars turning in there, that will help slow down the speeders, because as the car in front of you is turning left or right, you'll have to turn down. So that may even help your speeding motorists along there. In terms of whether the local post office survives or not, that's not a planning material, a planning consideration. If the local people of Coates want this, they will spend their money in there. And if they don't want it, they won't, and it won't be there in 12 months' time. So I think that's supply and demand in the market. Something like this usually works. Yeah, it's a nice looking store. It's got good parking outside. It's on a busy road, and I think that the site is good. It's a brownfield site, and really I see nothing but benefit to the community. And as much as you may have 50 letters of complaint, it's a very small percentage of the people who live there, and the real test will be whether they spend their money in it. And I think it's like everything. Tesco's always say, build it and they will come, or Tesco's have ever said that. But once it's built, it'll either fall or stand on its own 2 feet. And in terms of planning, it's a brownfield site. It's does bring community value. You know, I was a shopkeeper when Tesco's were coming to Chatteris. Personally, I didn't want it, but I never ever objected to it, because it wasn't right. It was the right thing for Chatteris. As Chatteris was growing, it needed a supermarket, and I never ever complained about that. It's competition, whether it's isn't personally what I wanted, but you know, we can't stand in the way of progress because of what may happen to the local post office. Post offices are going by their number. You know, we don't tax a car there anymore. All the services are going online. There's less and less stuff you do in a post office. And to me, the benefit of having this store right on your doorstep will benefit the people of Coates. And you've got a silent majority out there of people who will be very pleased with this application if and when it gets approved.
Just like to say thank you very much for your expertise on this matter, Councillor Benny. You've brought enlightenment to us all as being a shopkeeper, I think. Councillor Gerson, then Councillor Marks. Thank you.
Thank you. I concur with most of what Councillor Benny said. A brownfield site that's been derelict for 15 years or more, probably 10 to 15 years. An eyesore, to say the least. I take on board the 50+ comments that the coast residents have made in their objections. However, a lot of those objections are not planning materialistic in planning terms. Looking at the Whittlesea Town Council, recommended for refusal as it is detriment impact to the surrounding area. But they haven't quantified that whatsoever. It's just an open-ended statement. They also say that there are road safety issues and close proximity to the school. Again, unfortunately, they haven't quantified what those issues are, but I'm now going to do that for them. So, going on from Councillor Wixon, we haven't discussed this in any great length. I did this on my own. We have these MVASs, these motor vehicle activated signs in Whittlesea, and we've paid a lot of money for them because the police never believed us about the speeding issues in our towns, and these instruments, boxes, provide unequivocal hard data. And I'm going to give you some hard data on the A605 just before this store coming from March. I've got 3 or 4 years worth of data, but I'll go back to the latest 18 months. The sign isn't always there. We move them around occasionally because other people need them, but it is there quite a lot. I'll say 2/3 of its time it's there. One statistic for one period of about a month last year, 64,000 vehicles passed it. The lowest speed was 33 miles an hour. It hit the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit at 33. That was the lowest ever recorded. The highest on that one was 94 miles an hour. 100 metres from that shop and the school. The average number of vehicles that would be prosecuted under the APRO rules and regulations, basically that's 30 miles an hour plus an element of instrument and plus 10%. So you don't normally get prosecuted below 34 miles an hour. Above 34 miles an hour, that's when you trigger this off. On that statistic, 28% of the vehicles of that 64,000 passing through that thing were speeding, would get a speeding fine. The next set of data, 86,000 vehicles passed. 33 miles per hour was the lowest recorded figure hitting that corner. 97 miles an hour was the highest figure. And 27% were over the speed limit. The last statistic I'll give you is 94,000 vehicles. 33 miles an hour hitting the sign. 93 miles an hour, the top speed. 30% over the speed limit would get brilliant. That equates to 4,000 vehicles that would be prosecuted under the APRO things. Now, it's a lovely store, it's there. My concern is the road safety. Highways have got it wrong. The police have got it wrong. These figures speak for themselves. Now, what can we do? There's been no major accident there. There's been nobody killed there. However, the Lincolnshire Co-op just told me they'd like to be a good neighbour. Now, I understand there's no 106 money in this particular thing, but I would like them to help to put in a speed reduction mitigation process. Whether I'm not talking about chicanes, I'm not talking about speed humps, something visual. Rumble strips, for example, as you come into the village, the rumble strips make you aware. There's already plenty of signage there already. School sign, slow down sign, bend sign. But this is so close there. Turning into there, you won't see those cars turning in there until you're actually on top of them. The proximity of the store and the school, unfortunately, doesn't help with the speeding issue. So although I welcome the store, and I think it's a very good store, I think there are issues surrounding the speed of which the figures themselves prove. Thank you.
Very interesting, Councillor Gerstner. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Marks. Yeah.
Thank you. I have concerns about HGV, but that aside, I think anybody who wants to put a shop at the present time and the present climate in any out of town place, I think should be supported. Yes, we understand there could be, as we're hearing now, issues with road safety. I think if the co-op would work with planners, we could probably get mitigation for that as well. In the whole, I will support this application. Yes, I know we have those concerns, but I think what benefits it brings to the local area far outweighs any safety bits at this point in time. And if we can work and get some extra safety systems put in place.
Councillor French.
Thank you. Thank you, Roy. Very interesting, your information, but unfortunately it's not material. What I would say to you, local highway improvements are coming up. The deadline is the 12th of January to put your application in. I would suggest you get the town council to put one in. If not, the co-op may do a third party one. They can actually apply for something to, but I don't know what they would do in a 605. I don't think you get speed bumps, and you definitely won't get a chicane, but you leave that up to the highway experts. But that is a possibility. And I think the cost to the third party is £500.
The local highways thing has already gone through Woodsea Town Council already. They've already got things in place for that. I take on board what Councillor Mark said. It's like the previous application. We can't say what if, what happens. We haven't got what we can't see. Coates is a very growing, medium-sized village now, with the potential, say, another 400 houses, which this store will adequately supply. And I will say, in essence, it's a fantastic store to put into Coates. If the local residents have that concern about their village shop, use it or lose it. It's the way to do it. I spoke to a gentleman yesterday who put in an objection, and I asked him when was the last time he used the shop. A month ago. And then he didn't use the shop, he only used the post office. So a lot of the objectors about the village shop, I fully understand. I lived in the village, I was a paper boy in the village, you know. I'm very passionate about that village. However, use it or lose it. Those people don't have to use the Lincolnshire Co-op, they don't have to use Oldie up the road. And I think it's a very bold financial move by the Lincolnshire Co-op, who have been very engaging at their other store and have been very community spirited by having a community fund, which a lot of the local community groups are benefited by. So yes, I fully support this with the caveat of the road safety aspect of it. Thank you.
Okay, we'll bring in Councillor Marks. We're still in debate, so Councillor Marks, please do.
Thank you. Fully support that. I honestly think, you know, anything that the co-op can do to help this, and especially HGVs turning off the road as well, we're going to have those concerns. Is it something that we can actually speak to the agent here today and ask what, you know, they would be prepared to do? Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairman, through you. We have no objection from the Highway Authority, and therefore on what basis are we going to either refuse this application on highway safety grounds or alternatively seek a contribution towards a traffic calming scheme which hasn't been defined? So given that situation, I think we'd be acting outside of the SIL regulations in terms of developer contributions, because there just isn't the evidence to support the request. If it's a matter of concern for members and members accept what I've just said, then that could be a conversation to be had with the co-op outside of the planning regime, Chairman.
Yeah, Councillor Hicks first, and then Councillor French is going to have a go again, so please do.
Yeah, I fully agree with the safety measures put involved, and I know it's not a planning issue, but the co-ops are quite a big organisation. I'm sure it would be well received as a goodwill gesture to put some money towards traffic calming measures in I don't know whether the gentleman over there can come back with that. But secondly, I don't think there's, I think we have to take into consideration the employment, how much employment this is going to create within the village. 15 to 20 jobs. That's quite a substantial amount, which is going to suit around single mums and things like that, because they can do these short shifts, pick up the kids from school over the other side of the road. I think in that respect, it's perfect.
I think you've, Councillor, you just heard Nick say that we can't do anything, at least before the application's been decided, with traffic calming, that sort of thing, because you just heard what Nick said about that. That would be unprofessional, and it would be outside our remit to do so. But that, as he said, that decision, that conversation can be done at some other time. The agent is there, he's listening. Let's hope he's taking it on board, which I'm looking for a nod to hope he is. But anyway, never mind for that. Councillor French.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the co-op, not Lincolnshire, but here, they do have the White Mill Environmental Fund, which I'm not sure whether courts would actually, from where the turbines are, I think it's 10 miles, whether it would actually stretch to there and it could actually come out of this funding. Because certainly Burnt House, which is several miles away, we can apply for anything in March. So there is something, I don't know whether it's the crow flies or whether it's travelling in road.
Fortunately, again, Councillor French, that's not a material planning consideration, but it's a point well made. Anybody else still in debate? Anybody else want to add to it? Councillor Benny, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think Nick's absolutely right. We're outside our remit asking for something that we can't define, and it would be unreasonable to do that. And all traffic calming measures are data based. I mean, the A142 at Chatteris, times I get, oh, we need a roundabout there, it's a really bad junction, but when you look at the data there isn't the accidents there. There's places in Cambridgeshire that have got much higher accident rates, and so it won't get the funding to bring that in. I accept that it isn't a good junction where you cross New Road in Chatteris, but the data doesn't back that up. And the data here is not that people are getting run over and killed on this section of road. There is speeding, but what time of the day was the speeding? I mean, I do the MVAS for Chatteris, and when we have it in William Curve Terrace, you'll get 100 miles an hour down there, but that's at 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, that's another part of the equation you've got to take in. You know, we've got a policy compliant application in front of us. It brings good community benefit. It will stand or fall on its own merit, and we are looking at planning. So Brownfield say it's totally compliant. How the shop is run, how the deliveries come is down to them. That will be dealt with outside of this committee if there are any problems there. This needs passing, and I think we've debated this plenty today. This application is crying out to be passed, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You're taking the words out of my mouth there. I think we've debated it enough, really, to be honest. So, unless anybody's got anything new to add, I'm just going to close this debate, and I'm going to ask officers if they've got any comments to make. Thank you.
Nothing from me, thank you, Chairman.
So, do I have a proposal to go with officers' recommendation to grant planning permission? Councillor French?
With the opening times and the servicing times.
With those two conditions, most definitely. So we have, to go with officers' recommendation. So it's Councillor French and Councillor Marks. So we've got a proposal to go with officers' recommendation to approve this application, proposed by Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Marks. Can we have a show of hands on that proposal, please?
That's a unanimous decision, Chair.
Well, that application has been approved then. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Chairman. Excuse me, David. Like I mentioned to you earlier, I will have to leave early. Will this be a good time? Yeah.
You're going to leave now, Councillor Mifford, and this is the excellent time to do so.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending anyway. Thank you. Well, we can't we? I'm sure Councillor Bivden will be quiet. As previously reported, agenda item number 9 has been withdrawn, so I'll hand over to Nick to present application FYR 230570, agenda item number 11. So Nick, when you're ready, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. So this application at east of 52 Church Road, Christchurch, is outline in nature. Only access is for detailed approval at this stage. If I move to the application site, you can see the site edged in red on the plan and the outline drawing. And you will see that there is an extensive residential development to the right-hand side of the drain, which separates that development from the application site. You'll also see that the nature of development to the east of the site is forgive me, Chairman, is frontage development in nature, and you'll have seen that this is a proposal for 3 dwellings. So given that the settlement status of Christchurch indicates that it's largely infill development which is appropriate, you'll notice that on this indicative layout, emphasis on the indicative layout, this isn't for approval, you do have development at depth. So one could argue that the 2 dwellings to the rear of the first dwelling on the frontage doesn't represent infill development. However, on balance, officers take the view that given the nature of the development to the right-hand side and the limited extent of the garden area to this host property, on balance we think it could be deemed acceptable, even though it doesn't meet exactly the definition of infill. On this drawing, you'll note the hatched area, and that represents an area which is required for ditch maintenance by the IDB. The IDB and the agent have been conversing with each other outside of the application process with FDC involved, and the IDB have indicated to the applicant that they're satisfied that should this arrangement of a layout come forward, the necessary maintenance strip has been safeguarded.
Okay.
So in terms of the amount of space and this indicative layout, it's quite evident that the development can be suitably accommodated. It's not overly cramped. It's of a density which is commensurate with the locality. Safe access can be provided, and consequently that is why we're recommending approval, Chairman.
Yeah.
I should show you some slides of the site. So this is the frontage of the site. To the right-hand side of slide number 1, you've got the adjacent depth development.
Yeah.
Slide 2, you've got the host property, and on the right-hand side of the slide, you've got the ditch, and this is where the entrance is going to be to the houses to the rear, plus the proposed frontage plot development. And the other 2 slides show the sort of nature of the area surrounding. And as I said, we're recommending approval, Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. We have 1 speaker on this application. Now, I'd like to invite Shana Jackson, of course, she's the agent, to make her presentation to the committee. When you're ready, you've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak in support of this application. As you've just heard, the proposal seeks outline planning permission for the construction of 3 dwellings. The site is located within Christchurch Village and is positioned on a gap between the existing dwellings at 52 Church Road and number 3 Shrubbery Close. It would therefore represent infill development, which is supported in principle by policy LP3 of the local plan. The indicative drawings demonstrate that there is sufficient space within the site to accommodate the 3 dwellings, including appropriate amenities, parking and turning. The existing site access will be upgraded and used to serve plot 1, and a new access is proposed to the immediate northeast of this, which will serve plots 2 and 3 and the existing dwelling at number 52. These access arrangements have been supported by the local highway authority. The comments made by the parish council with regards to drainage are noted, and I'd like to assure you that we have an in-principle approval from the mid-level commissioners for the necessary works. The proposal complies with the policies of the development plan as set out in the committee report, and I'd respectfully request that planning permission is granted. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Members, Councillor French.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Sorry, I didn't hear because Mr. Benny was coughing in my ear. Middle level, obviously, what is the size of the meters? Because most places it's 9 meters away from a ditch. Because flooding is my pet.
Bag. It's 9 meters.
That's
so,
fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Marks, thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify, we had a hatched area that showed 9 metres, but it looked like one of the porches was in the 9 metres.
Yes, I did pick up on that as well. I mean, it is an outline application,
Right.
so the design's up for grabs, and we can tweak the design so the house is slightly smaller, so, you know, the porch is outside the hatched area, or we can take the porch off. It's
Okay.
yeah.
No, so I was just making sure, because I was looking at that at 9 metres thinking like that could be a bit
Yes,
tight.
no, I agree.
I think what we're saying, they're going to jiggle it about a bit so they can get the 9 metre strip, which we desperately, absolutely need. Thanks. Any more questions at all? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. Members, questions to officers? No? Nothing? Oh, dear me. You were rather quiet there, so I thought, well, Okay. So, members, I'd now like you to invite members to debate the item in respect to the material planning considerations relevant to the application. If you'd like to speak, raise your hands. So we're in debate, ladies and gentlemen, who'd like to kick that off? Councillor Benny, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I see nothing wrong with this application. I spoke to Councillor Sutton when he was councillor. He said to me one day, would 50 houses make a difference to Christchurch? And I said, no, probably not a lot. He said it would. It'd get it a bus service, only 1 day a week.
You'll be lucky.
These, yeah, maybe not now, but all these houses add to the sustainability of villages. It's got a recommendation to approve. I see nothing wrong with this. It's an outline application. The access strip will be sorted out when we get to the reserve matters application. I think this one just needs passing, Mr. Chairman, unless anybody's got any burning desire not to.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Councillor Benny, really. Long as the 9 metre access strip is protected, I can't really see anything wrong with this. Do we want to go and debate this any further? I don't think we do, so I'm going to close the debate now. Would you like to sum up anything? So, I'm looking for a proposal on this scheme, Councillor Benny.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I propose we go with officer's recommendation and approve.
Okay. Anybody want to second that? Councillor Hicks. Okay. So we've got a proposal to go with officer's recommendation to approve this by Councillor Benny, seconded by Councillor Hicks. Can we have a show of hands on that?
That's a unanimous decision, Chairman.
Well, that's excellent then. Thank you. We'll hand over to Nick again. Busy chap he is today, to present application FYR 230749F, agenda item number 12. So, Nick, away we go. Thanks. Quick today, aren't we? We're there.
at the edge of my abilities. I've got that button, this button, and that button. So
You're doing extremely good.
It's
You're doing
taxing the
extremely
chairman.
well. Extremely well, Nick.
Thank you very much, Chairman. We've got an application to erect a dwelling at 114 Osborne Road, Wisbeach. The proposal does involve some demolitions of a side extension and store and garage associated with number 114. The application site is edged in red, and you'll see that it's a corner plot. Okay, that's the key thing to note in relation to this particular application. What you have on site at present is a pair of semi-detached dwellings, and on the end of the one that's on the corner plot, you're going to have an additional dwelling stitched onto that, so you'll end up with a terrace of 3, so that's 2 existing and 1 new. 114 on this slide is, if you look on the bottom right hand corner, is the property that's got the 2 cars parked on the frontage. So that is part of the proposal. So those 2 frontage parking spaces will be created in order to serve number 114. And you'll see that the proposed car parking, 2 spaces for the additional dwelling, are going to be accessed from the side road that sits adjacent to 114 rather than on the frontage. There's no particular issues with that. It is a safe access and highways have no concerns. So this is what the property will look like, and as you can see, you've got the existing dwelling in the middle of that row of 3 and the proposed dwelling on the left hand side, which mirrors number 114. No issues with overlooking in respect of the plot, and this is the side elevation as proposed at the sort of at the top of the slide. Okay, so this is as existing, so this is number 114, and the trees to the left hand side are generally the location where the additional plot is going to be located. The bottom slide is looking from the opposite side of the junction, looking towards the side elevation of 114, and where you see the green element of the tree is where you'll have that new property being located, because obviously it's been stitched onto the side elevation of the existing plot, and you can see the sort of the white soffits of the side elevation of 114 in that slide. Here's looking directly down the side road that goes down the side elevation of the property. So 114 is on the right hand side. You can see the white soffits, and that's where the dwelling is going to be located. And I think this illustrates the openness of the character of this particular location. And we feel that the proposed development would have an enclosing consequence on that street scene and be unacceptable. And here's again looking towards the side elevation of 114 on the top slide and the bottom slide, and that indicates where the car parking to the rear of the proposed dwelling is going to be located. So we are recommending refusal of the application, and as you'll see in the report, the application was originally submitted in 2021 and refused under delegated powers for 2 reasons. The adverse impact on the appearance of the area, as I've indicated in my presentation, given the reduction of the openness of the junctions, the junction of Savory Road with Osborne Road, and secondly, flood risk. So in terms of this latest application, the issue of flood risk has been resolved, and therefore the issue of the impact of the appearance is the issue that remains. So given that it was previously refused on appearance grounds, it would be logically appropriate to do so again, Chairman. So we are recommending refusal of the application. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. We have no speakers on this application, so I'd now like to invite members to put questions to officers. No question, no burning desire for questions to officers. Okay. So we'll move on quickly then. Thank you, everybody. I'd now like to invite members to debate the item in respect of the material planning considerations relevant to the application. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. So it's Councillor Benny. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Looking at this one, I think officers have got this one absolutely right. I think it will change the street scene. It will have a detriment to the impact of the area. It works in some cases. There was another place in Wisbeach several years ago. We overturned the officer's decision on that, and when we went back and had a look at it, I couldn't even find it to start with. I had to drive up and down it. It blended in that well. I don't think this one will. I think officers have got this right, and this one needs refusing, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Benny. Councillor French.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just looking at the past history, it was refused a planning application FY 21-0496. I'm assuming that didn't go to appeal, did it?
No.
So what is different from that application that was refused to this one now?
None, or very little.
The flood risk issue has been resolved now, but otherwise it's the same scheme.
Okay, so I can put a bit of clarity on that. I think I can nickel. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong. I turned this down some, I don't know, 18 months ago now, I suppose, Nick, wasn't it? On delegated thing is, I thought it was disjointed when I had a look at it. I thought, well, on balance, I'd have to say to refuse this on delegated powers and officers. Obviously, took into consideration what I said. So I've no reason to change my mind whatsoever. Nothing's old. It is in flood zone 3. Well, most of Wisbech is in flood zone 3, as we know. So I'm quite happy to, to reiterate my decision that I made some 18 months ago. So that's for me. Thank you.
Can I come back and ask another question? Right.
Have as many questions you like, Councillor French. Yeah.
Okay, it was refused. I don't have a problem with that. Why is it back to committee? I know Town Council recommended approval, but it's normally more than 2, not a single dwelling. So why is it? Well, because obviously every time it comes to committee or something, it's officers' time all the time writing reports.
I'll answer that, but Nick, you should probably answer that. Perhaps Mark Tett.
Be my guest.
No, you carry on.
Wisbeach,
I wouldn't want to steal your thunder.
We may have made a mistake. We may have made a mistake on that, so thank you for picking us up on it.
Thank you. I don't want to waste any more of your time. I know it's precious.
It absolutely is. So anyway, we're still in debate. I don't know if anybody wants to add to that. No, I can't see anything like that. So, would you like to sum up anything at all?
Nothing new from me.
Okay, so we're looking for a proposal now. Councillor Benny, what you propose?
I don't mind. If anybody else wants to have a go, then.
Yeah, anybody else can have a go.
Charlie. Yeah.
Councillor Marks, you're going to propose. What are you going to propose? Who's going to second it? Let's have a new. Oh, Councillor French. She's always got a hand up. She's always got a hand up somewhere. So we've got a proposal to go with officer recommendation to refuse this application, proposed by Councillor Marks, seconded by Councillor French. Can we have a show of hands on that proposal, please?
That's a unanimous decision, Chairman.
This is very good today. So this application has been refused. Thank you.
Could we just have a 5-minute comfort break, please?
You really need one.
And the water I've been drinking, yes.
Okay. Yeah, 5 minutes then. Your wish is my command. Right. Okay, we're back on air now. Now hand over to Nick to present application FYR 23-08520, agenda item number 13. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairman. Before I start, just to let you know that we've had 3 additional letters of support for the application from one address point in Seeley's Lane, Parsons Drove. The letters are all the same in terms of content and state that I would like to support this application as the proposal would make the village more sustainable. So the application before you is outlined with all matters reserved save for the question of access. Extent of the application is shown on these 2 pictures. As you can see, the proposal will be utilising the existing farm access that runs off Ingham Hall Gardens to the field at the rear. As you can see from the aerial photograph, it's part grassland and part ploughed field on this occasion. So this is an indicative layout. Again, it shows that the field access is going to continue on, and you've got up to 9 dwellings are proposed on this application. Jumped. So here are the application slides. So what you've got in slide 1 is a picture showing the access road as you head towards the site at Ingham Hall Gardens. The picture on the right hand side is a reverse shot showing what the roads are like going into the development, and the bottom one is a panorama showing the application site with the back fences of the existing houses on Ingham Hall Gardens shown on the right hand side. So, Chairman, this application has previously been refused on 2 occasions in 2020 and 2021, and most recently in 21 at committee. This resubmitted scheme has with it the results of a community involvement exercise, and that's been submitted in order to try and overcome one of the reasons for refusal on the previous applications. The application in 2020 was refused on 4 grounds. So these being that the proposed development is at odds with the character and appearance of the built form of the settlement. 2, there's no community support for the proposal, and the parish council did not support the application. And those 2 matters relate to a neighbourhood plan policy that we need to have regard to. Thirdly, the impact on residential amenity with the additional traffic passing by in close proximity to the dwellings at the entrance to the development. And finally, lack of information to demonstrate that it would not be significantly harmful to biodiversity. Turning now to the 21 application, that was still refused, as I mentioned, by committee for all of the previously stated reasons, with the exception of ecology, and that was dealt with by way of an ecological assessment. So we have the scheme back again. The ecology matter is resolved. They're trying to resolve the issue of community support, and the results of that community engagement is summarised within your committee report. However, both officers and the parish council have concerns in respect of as to how that community consultation was couched with the public. You'll see that people were asked to consider the proposal in the context of the £50,000 community contribution being made, rather than on the principle of the development itself with no add-ons, so to speak. In terms of the offer of the community contribution, It's important to note that this is development of up to 9 houses, and as such, we wouldn't normally seek Section 106 developer contributions towards any community facilities or whatever. Secondly, in relation to that, there's no evidence that there is actually the need for this community contribution to be made. I dare say that use will be made of it, obviously, but for the purposes of planning, you have to consider whether or not a development generates a need which, if not satisfied, would make the proposal unsatisfactory, and we don't have that evidence. So getting a contribution would be contrary to the legislation and requirements in relation to the community infrastructure levy. So, Chairman, we are recommending refusal for the same grounds as was the case on the application in 21. Given that there's been no change in circumstances, particularly in respect of the impact on the residents either side of the access and how the proposed development relates to the physical form of the settlement in this area, those two aspects have not changed since you refused it last time round, and therefore the outcome really ought to be the same in terms of a refusal on those two issues. And obviously the question of the consistency of decision making in your planning code of conduct comes into play in that regard. I'll finish at that point, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you, Nick. We have two speakers on this application. Firstly, I'd like to invite Donald Smithers. He's an objector to make his presentation to the committee. You've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I find myself in the position of having to oppose this application on 2 counts, and both strangely connected to just a 30-metre section of road, unadopted road, that runs from Ingham Hall Gardens out to the farmland at the rear. This is a section of road that the applicant seeks to join up to the road that is going to service, or would service, the 9 dwellings. That section of road, if we went to Land Registry today, we would find that that section of road was registered to a Mr. Gerald Boston, who was the developer of the Ingham Hall Gardens site. And Mr. Boston, only some 3 months ago, offered to gift that piece of road to Ingham Hall Residents Association, and it would have been gratefully received, were it not for the fact that when the wheels started to turn for change of ownership, it was found that Mr. Boston was not in fact the owner, although he's at Land Registry, he's not in fact the owner. That section of road is now owned by the Crown under the watchful eye of Crown agents. And so I think it would give an indication that the applicant doesn't have ownership of that piece of road. However, it brings me to the second part of my objection, which is simply that I, residing at number 22, and the owners of 3941 Ingham Hall Gardens, we have an obligation to maintain that piece of road. But not only do we have that obligation, we have a further obligation to allow unrestricted access to farm traffic, which would include the applicant, because the applicant owns farmland at the rear. And that's absolutely fine. You can use that road without let or hindrance. But I am advised now by council that in fact the applicant cannot, as the legal people say, cannot advance that to others in perpetuity. Or indeed, what they're really saying is that the applicant cannot allow others to use that same right of access. And so consequently, we arrive at the stage where if there were people dwelling in those 9 properties, they would not have access to that particular piece of road. Now, it may seem awfully churlish to deny 9 people access to that piece of road. But the problem comes, I think, that if that parish line is breached, which is what would happen, then what then becomes of the numbers of properties? Could it become a further 10, 20, 30, 40 ad infinitum? And so that piece of road then becomes very, very difficult to maintain. So that is the basis of my argument, Mr. Chairman, and I do thank you for listening to me.
Right. Thank you for that. Questions, members, to Mr. Smithy, please. None? No, not at all. Thank you, Mr. Smithers. Thank you very much.
Could you press your button, please? Lovely.
Super. Thank you for that. Now I'd like to invite Shana Jackson. Of course, she's the agent again to make her presentation to the committee. You've got 5 minutes. Thank you again.
Right, hello again. As you've just heard, there are previous applications for housing on this site, and we've worked really hard to overcome the previous reasons for refusal. The most significant piece of work we carried out includes a community consultation exercise, and this was done to meet the requirements of Parson Drove Neighbourhood Plan. I understand that the Parish Council does not support the scheme. However, from the exhibition and forms which are completed, 68.7% of respondents stated that they were in favour of a development for 9 dwellings on this site. This shows that there is a community desire for the development, despite the Parish Council comments. I would like to draw your attention to the emerging local plan. The site before you has been recommended for allocation for housing by officers under policy LP 57.01. I understand that only limited weight can be given to the emerging local plan at this stage, but it does show the direction of travel in terms of spatial planning for the area. This is a change from the previous decisions, and this allows you to consider the application differently. There is no doubt that the principle of development is acceptable, and this is acknowledged within paragraph 10.11 of the committee report. We have shown the scheme to be a comprehensive form of development to address policy LP 12, which actively seeks to avoid linear features and ribbon development. Concerns have been raised with regards to the noise impact on neighbouring residents given the additional vehicular movements. However, as there are only up to 9 dwellings proposed, these movements are relatively small scale given the context of the wider housing area, and I would argue that these could easily be absorbed. This issue must have been considered by officers when they proposed the allocation of the land. The road leading up to the site is a sealed surface, and the noise generated by a vehicle on a sealed surface, as I'm sure you are aware, is relatively low. I would therefore argue that there is no harm caused in terms of existing residential amenities in accordance with policies LP2 and LP16. I also note that concerns have been raised with regard to the distance for bins to be wheeled to be collected. My understanding is that there is an appeal decision for elsewhere within the district, which states that an objection on these grounds cannot be upheld, and to my knowledge, such an objection no longer forms a reason for refusal within this local planning authority. If it gives members comfort, I can advise that the internal roadway will be constructed to an adoptable standard, and it includes a turning head. Therefore, future residents can benefit from roadside collection if arrangements are made, and we would happily accept a condition to this effect. I am aware that there are concerns with the rights of way and the access. However, these are legal issues and they are beyond the remit of this planning application. I understand the position of the Parish Council, however, would highlight again to you that there is demonstrable community support for this scheme. The site is available now and will be developed out as soon as practically possible. It would therefore contribute to the housing numbers within the parish and the district as a whole. I hope you're able to see the benefits of the scheme and would respectfully request that you grant planning permission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. Questions? Councillor French. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Can you tell me, I know it's on your outline, how are you going to deal with drainage and sewage? I'm assuming that there are no main sewers in Parson Drove.
I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but that would come with the technical design. And if it's something that members specifically wanted, we could build that into the next stage.
Okay. As you're well aware, that this committee does not give very little weight to the emerging plan. It's not far enough along, so I don't think you can get away with that one. Sorry.
Okay, Councillor Gerstner, thank you.
I'd just like to clarify, confirm, you are aware of what the opposer comments about the road access was and the legalities around it. I know that's not part of us, but it's part of you.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I understand that if there's a 30 section of roadway, and if they decide not to give permission to access over that, then that's one thing. But it is a legal issue, and sort of in planning terms, it would.
Would there be another access to that site?
Yeah, we could achieve access elsewhere, but it would be a different red line, different application.
Secondly, I'm reading notes here from Parson Grove Council. There is no legal formal agreement for the contribution at this moment in time.
No, there's no formal contribution agreement, and like Nick said, because it's 9 dwellings, it wouldn't trigger anything in accordance with the SIL.
Thirdly,
yeah.
Sorry, do you not think that this, I use the word loosely, contribution influenced people at the consultation?
I mean, I don't know. What I would say is that you tend to find that people only respond to something when they're not happy with it. So the fact that they're responding to something because they are happy with it would suggest to me that they are supportive of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Marks.
Thank you. How was this poll carried out? Was it the whole village, leaflet dropped, via Facebook, via...
There was an exhibition held, which a couple of my colleagues attended, and at that exhibition, leaflets, the scheme was explained, different options for the site were given, and leaflets were taken by local residents, and they handed them either back to us on the day or posted them back to us. Again, it's one of those things where you can publicise it, but you can't make everybody come, you can't make everybody respond. And this is what we got, and I think my understanding is the turnout was actually pretty good.
So there was no other way of polling. It was literally on the day, people coming in, either picking up a leaflet or not.
There were adverts in the press. I don't know if anything else, but I know it wasn't just a singular approach. We did publish it in the press as well.
I suppose my follow-on question to that is, advert in the press, is there a local free paper that goes around?
Newspaper.
No.
If I can be of assistance, site notices were put up, and also in the Village Voices magazine that gets circulated locally.
Yeah. It was also advertised in the shop and the post office.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
And the village hall.
Okay, we'll bring in Councillor Hicks now.
Just to clarify this, how you got your results.
Yeah.
When you did your open day, as I like to call it, the leaflets were handed out. Were they signed while you were there and given back to you, and then you collected the information? I mean, is that true? For a start, is it when you actually when the people came in to see this, you handed them a leaflet, they signed it, and then they gave it back to you? No.
No, they
no.
They took them away with them.
Right.
And wrote back. But I mean, there are copies online, so you can see all the different handwriting.
I just wondered if there was an element of pressure involved with giving them a leaflet, you sign it, and then give it back to us, so to speak. So that's clarified.
No, we didn't lean on them. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions for Shana? No? No, thank you very much. Members, question to officers? No? Okay. So thank you, everybody. I'd now like to invite members to debate the item in respect to the material planning considerations relevant to the application. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. So we're in debate, guys. Charlotte, Councillor Marks, thank you.
Thank you. I struggle with hearing about the poll. It's a bit of a strange way of doing things. It doesn't seem a very legitimate way of doing. It's a straw poll of people, but it's not any sort of like formal way. We don't know how many were photocopied, how many are doubled up or whatever. And I've seen this here now. I think we've sat on this twice before previously, and each time, and I don't see much that's actually changed at the present time.
Okay, anybody else at all?
Just a question to Nick. What is my usual question? What is different to the last two applications?
Okay.
As I highlighted in my presentation, the difference that we have is that the community consultation exercise has been undertaken. That's the key thing.
Okay. Councillor Gerstner, thank you.
Thank you. I'll go on Parsons Road Parish Council's neighbourhood plan. It doesn't comply with that. The development encroaches open land, and I'm very uncomfortable with this poll and the contribution, which is not legally binding, I understand, and I just feel very uncomfortable that it's actually been done that way. I've never seen anything like that before. That's outside of Section 106 or SILT. So, sorry, I can't support this application.
Okay, Councillor French.
Yes, if I can just come back. I've been here since 1999, 24 years, and I've never seen it. Highly unlikely way to.
So I think it's a unique thing then, isn't it? So anybody else, we're still in debate, so anybody else want to say anything before I close the debate? I think probably everything's been said. Okay, no, okay. So anything else at all you'd like to add? So now we're going to, like now to invite members to make a proposal on this. Councillor Hicks.
Yeah, I'd like to propose that we go with officers' recommendations to refuse. I can't see enough what's changed for my liking. I'll keep it quite concise. That'll do for me.
Have we got a seconder? Councillor Gerstner then. I'll have a fresh. So we've got a proposal to go with officers' recommendation to refuse this application, proposed by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Gerstner. Can we have a show of hands on that?
That's a unanimous decision, Chair.
Excellent, thank you. That application has obviously been refused then. So now we'll go to the last but not least. Nick, application number 14, TPO 04 2023, agenda item number 14 in your pack. So Nick, if you'd like to continue your hard work.
Yep, I'd like to start off with an apology to committee. We had a bit of a hiccup in terms of version control of the documentation in relation to this particular item. So what I've taken the liberty of doing is I left on your desk at the start of the meeting an updated report, and basically that seeks to set out clearly the issues in relation to this particular application. So that's looking at the reasons why the objector doesn't like the thought of the tree preservation order being confirmed, and what our response is in relation to those. So to give committee some background, we're in a conservation on this particular site, and we had an application to remove 2 trees, and when we get an application to do works in a conservation area, if we don't want to approve those works, the only option we have is to serve a tree preservation order. Unlike a planning application, you can't refuse it. You have to go and serve this tree preservation order. So 2 trees were applied for felling. We were happy with one of those trees going, given its proximity to one of the dwellings, not least because of that. And so that application was amended in order to let those works go ahead. But in terms of the other tree, that was removed from the application, and we served a provisional tree preservation order on that remaining tree, and that went out to consultation. So you'll see from your revised report that we had feedback from the person that put in the application that was concerned about the condition of the tree and its appearance, and we feel that there may be getting confused between the tree that we're trying to protect and the tree that we've already authorised the removal of. So that's point 1. Point 2, the objector refers to branches falling causing damage. Use of the car parking space in the vicinity of the tree has been restricted due to pine cones dropping onto the roofs of cars and the bonnets of cars and what have you, and also pine cones falling off the tree and onto the lawn, making gardening quite challenging. So in response to those, the tree has been inspected by our tree officer prior to the serving of the notice, because one of the things we need to do, as well as the primarily reason for TPOing a tree, is to secure amenity that that tree brings to a publicly viewable space. But in doing so, we also check whether or not the tree is in a good condition, is healthy, it's got a long life ahead of it, and whether or not it's got any significant defects to it. No defects of any significance were found on the tree that's subject to this provisional tree preservation order, and therefore we don't consider that there is a risk of branches falling off it and causing damage. You can never legislate for extreme weather conditions, but from all the appearances and signs we have, we've got no concerns. In terms of leaf litter, needles, cones falling off the tree, bits of twig, that goes with the territory of having a tree at your property, and it's a low-level nuisance which would not be sufficient to justify not protecting the tree and letting the tree be felled. So all in all, we are recommending that this tree preservation order is confirmed by committee today. And there's pictures of the trees in question in the updated report that I circulated in hard copy. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Yep, once again, thank you. We have no speakers on this item, so I would now like to invite members to put questions to officers. Councillor Hickson, Councillor French, and then Councillor Marks.
Two questions to Nick. Is there any way? I mean, I don't know this, but if we was to say they can chop that one down, is it possible to make a proviso in there that they must plant 2 more trees in its place somewhere else on the site? Can we do that or not? Can that be?
There's no requirement. If I'll start from the top. Apologies, Chairman. If this TPO is confirmed, and because the other one has already got consent to be removed, so if we can confirm this tree preservation order today, and subsequently, for whatever reason, say disease, 5 years down the line, the tree has to be removed, then we can require that a replacement tree is planted. Yeah.
Councillor French.
Does anybody know how old this tree is?
Through you, Chairman, no, that wasn't as part of the assessment.
Oh, well, the point I was trying to make was the tree there? It looks as if it has been there a long time before these people purchased the property. And if it wants trimming, surely they can apply to have the branches trimmed properly rather than not have a TPO on it.
The application that we received was for complete removal rather than any tree works. And as you see from the photographs that I've included in your hard copy report, the nature of the species is such that there isn't always a lot to cut back, so to speak.
Councillor Marks.
I think this is probably a double-up question, though. This tree looks quite scrawny at the end of the day. What if somebody comes along and cuts it again and pollards it again? There's not going to be a lot left of it. I mean, looking at the neighbouring tree, that at the minute gives the shadow. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against this, but I'm just wondering, can the residents still trim it as they feel fit?
Through you, Chairman, no, they have to apply to the council if they want to do any works to the tree. That excludes if it's dead, dying or dangerous, when there's emergency provisions available.
So we've got a tree preservation order officer. He goes, we employ him, and he says, yes, the other one can come down, no problem at all, but this one needs staying in order. It's a good tree, as Nick said. If in 2 years' time, 5 years' time, it takes a downward turn, it can be looked at again. But that is why we have a tree officer. And why would we employ a tree officer 1 or 2 days a week or whenever if we don't take notice of him? We take notice of highways, don't we? Or try to, or seem to. We take notice of middle level commissioners. So why would we not take notice of a tree expert, as I said, an expert in the field? So for my mind, we need to put a TPO on this tree. As I said, if anything else goes wrong in ever many months, years' time, we can look at it, or someone else can look at it in a different light. But for me, the TPO has to be put on. Thanks.
I'll second that.
Come on.
We're still in debate at the moment, Councillor French, but I don't suppose anybody's got. Oh yes, go on, Councillor Marks.
I think we just got to go by what the experts say. I'm not a tree expert by any means. It's a tree.
Okay, I've got to steer where this is going. I'm going to ask for a proposer. Councillor French is going to propose it. Councillor Marks is going to second it, and we've got a proposal to put a TPO on this tree. It's proposed by Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Marks. Can I have a show of hands on that?
Thank you, Chairman. The tree preservation order is confirmed.
Well, it's 4:30. Thank you for attending. May I take this opportunity to wish everybody a Merry Christmas